Radio Shack? Okay.
What?
The 80s called.
Welcome to the CoCo Nation, the world's first live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and its hardware cousins.
And I think we're live. Hopefully somebody can hear me. Oh, we have a
Okay.
chat. Hey, I apologize, but I'm the engineer for the show, and I'm kind of new at this. So, expect screw-ups. Anyway, anybody hearing me out there?
I can hear you, but there's like a background roomy noise.
Yeah, there's an air conditioner running in the corner. Now I'll turn it off here in a minute. Okay.
But I can't hear you on there, yes.
I don't hear any complaints that you can't hear me from the comments, so let's do introductions. So, let's see. In the upper left corner, that's my personal login in front of the camera. Wave. And
that would be Mark's hand.
Yes, Mark's hand. Moving across the top, we have Rick Euland. Are we hearing him?
No, I didn't hear Rick.
Let me fix my own technical problems. I have no flowers, but I have sound now, I guess.
Okay, hopefully we heard that. Static and echo.
Yeah, that was the same thing I heard.
Mark Siegel says I hear a lot of you. Okay, up next is Ken Waters.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the disaster.
And then along, it looks like Sleepy Malibu.
Yeah, they're hearing major echo according to David.
That's right.
Okay.
Greetings and salutations to everyone in the CoCo Nation.
Okay. Moving on. Ron Delvaux.
Hey, it's Ron Deluxe out here in Arizona. How you doing?
Glad to have you, Ron. L. Curtis Boyle.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Do you have any idea why this echo roomy noise is happening, Mark, or something you're going to try to figure it out after intros?
Turned off the air conditioner.
I don't hear it.
Okay.
It's not coming through on our side. It's coming through over the stream.
It's coming through on the stream.
Oops. Okay. Usually means something is. It could be microphone loop and some sound. I'll mute this in a minute. Okay. I'll be silent. Next up, Jason, the CoCo Man.
Hello, and I've got my magnifier hat ready to go in honor of our streamer today, Marco.
I left mine off. And up next, Brian Weisler.
Hello all, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. And a rare video appearance by Alan, Exile in Paradise.
Howdy, everybody.
And his cat.
And yes, hello, Gizmo. Tell him hi.
Nice cat.
Hi, Gizmo.
Up next, Bob Emery, otherwise known as Bacon Fire Bob.
Greetings, everyone.
You're a little low there on the voice.
More commonly referred to as Coconut Bob.
And Coconut Bob.
Yeah, at least on this Discord.
Okay. Turn your volume up. And finally, Kevin Holloway.
Hello, everybody.
Glad to have you here, Ken.
And Mark, I don't know if you've been watching the comments here, but it sounds like it's just you echoing now.
Oh, just me. Yeah, it's probably this microphone being looped back through OBS, and I'll try not to use it.
Same problem Sloopy always has on the live thing.
Yeah, sorry. I've only been using OBS for a little bit, so.
Have I just created a problem?
No.
With my... Okay.
Okay. So Curtis, you want to lead the next segment?
Well, I think the next segment is going to be Mr. Brian Weisler, because he's got some stuff to show off.
Excellent. I'm going to mute this microphone and go full screen and put Brian up as the featured speaker.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for him to zoom you up.
And all of the audio problems went away as soon as you muted that microphone, by the way.
Yeah, I'm
Mark.
sure it did. Oh, you can still hear me. It's picking up from somewhere.
Here.
Okay, I'm trying to spotlight him here. I'm just kind of new at this, so. Oh, that's right. There's a little thing here. Oh, there we go. Spotlight for everyone. Does that work?
There you go. Now you can see my big melon.
That's not a Christmas tree, do we see?
Yeah, it worked.
Oh,
Nope.
there we go.
Nope, not a Christmas tree.
Not anymore.
On the other side.
Take it away, Brian.
So anyway, yeah. So the first thing I'd like to show you here is Henry R had reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in this particular item. And after looking at it, I was very interested in the item here. So let me switch cameras and I'll show you what I'm talking about that I got from Henry. It'll all be very familiar to everybody.
Oh, the black version of the Birkenberg.
Yeah.
Old school.
I had the gold one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk to everybody about. One of the things, and you'll see where I'm coming from here in a moment. But yeah, so yeah, this was the black version of the of it. I really like it with this black. I don't know if this is like a black analyzed aluminum. I believe it might be. And it has the card there. I already loosened some of the screws. Well, here we can we'll take a little visual tour here so you can see the. Oops, there we are.
If there's one thing we have in this show, it's a lot of loose screws. But go ahead.
Yes. So here's the interface card here.
With the clock.
Yep, this has the clock on it. Yep. And then of course the Western Digital drive is on the inside here. Just flat on the back here. So
if you put your ear to that, you will not hear ticking.
Not hear kicking.
Ticking.
It's not. The battery's dead.
The battery's dead. Okay.
I thought you heard the ocean.
I already loosened a couple of the screws here, so let me we can take a look on the inside here.
Ooh.
There we go.
Ah.
There we go. Coming into focus here for everybody. Whoops.
Yep.
Let me bring her back down here.
Take off.
Now we're going to view it from orbit.
There we go. There.
Nice.
That looks a little better. So, yep. So the when you bought the interface from Birkenberg, what you would have received here, I'm not sure if you sold it with the Western Digital or if you had to buy that separate.
Usually you had to buy that separate because there was a bunch of different ones you could use. You can get RLL controllers, MFM controllers, different brands.
Okay.
So yeah, just I like mine. I bought independent because I got an RLL one. So
okay. There we go. Get this thing angled right here. So yeah, so the board that he made here was this interface board here, this one here is the one that has the real-time clock on it, indicated by the battery, and then this little circuit over here, I think, is what makes up the real-time clock.
Dallas clock.
He usually sold them with smartwatches, I thought, but maybe this earlier one didn't.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
this was.
Yeah, this is a Dallas DS12 15. DS12 15.
It's Dallas Semiconductor.
Yep. And then the DS12 is the chip that's on top there.
You know which one that is, Rick, off the top of your head?
It's obviously it's the bus interface with an external battery, which is why this was a great clock to have because you just kept chucking batteries in it every couple of years.
Yeah, the smartwatch I had the battery built in the chip, and once it's dead, replace the whole darn thing.
That's what I wanted to ask is, what am I looking at? Is this literally an ISA card bus?
Adapter? Basically, yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep. So the
8-bit XT adapter, I should say, not a full 16-bit ISA.
Yeah, XT. Yeah.
And from what I understand, really the only thing really was this little TTL chip here, because the rest was just a pass through on the bus, and everything was driven from the driver. Is that correct? The driver in OS 9 is what actually did the talking to.
Yeah, basically his interface, like I think the XT bus has extra address lines because of course the PC had up to 1 meg addressable RAM, so it basically just remapped the IO into the IO space in the CoCo, and that's mainly what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What's the empty header for?
Here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That might have been for another drive there.
Second drive.
Yeah, this one's labeled here as DR. I think it's DR0 is what I see. Yeah, DR0 on the backside, and this would be DR1.
Yeah, because every IBM PC XT hard drive could handle up to 2 hard drives.
Right. The big cable has a second connector on it, and you had 2 separate control cables.
The only other question I would have is, what are the missing chips for?
missing chips.
On the main XT board, that depends on
Right
the manufacturer. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, that might have been the manufacturer. This was an off-the-shelf item here. This is what Chris built.
Yeah, correct.
From Burke and Burke. Yep.
The empty pins might be more ROM because some of those cards back then for those drives came with additional expansion ROMs with more DOS features and things like that on it.
Yeah, or to get past the 128 meg barrier, the 32 meg barrier, and older DOS
Could be cache chip.
at one point. But I miss the ones that actually had a battery you could replace.
Oh yeah.
Now, for people that don't know it or not, when you accessed your hard drive, the hard drive had little drives, thousands of little drives on it. It wasn't just an open drive to fill, right? Correct or no? Tell us.
No.
It was
Well,
partitioned,
depending.
wasn't it?
Are you talking about like running it from RS DOS? Like what was
like,
Burke's Nick
most
called?
people will get a hard drive interface and think, oh, I can hook a hard drive up to it and put all my floppies on there. Just like
if you had RGB DOS or what is Burke and Burke's Hyper IO, I think it was called, the little ROM upgrade, then yeah, you could. Chris also offered the option for OS9 people. He had a XT, I can't really call it, auto boot ROM, basically, that he would actually boot. And it had two alternate boots. You could hold down the Alt key to switch which one, and you could actually boot it right from power up. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to type DOS. You didn't have to do anything at all. It just auto booted. I don't think this particular one has that though.
No, but that was my jam. That was my first hard drive controller. The
Me
black,
too. I had
Black
the gold
Slab
one, but
XT. Yeah.
And I got the auto boot ROM and the real time clock, and I even had a special ROM that Frank Hogg and Chris did for the TC9, so I could actually auto boot it right off of the TC9 as well.
Now, what about the color computer controller for hard drives and like the 5 meg?
You mean the Radio Shack Tandy one?
Yeah. How did that work?
Yeah.
That was a really old technology using SASE. It was slower.
Well, what Tandy actually did was they made the equivalent of the Burke and Burke board. It was a little 3-chip wonder that converted the CoCo bus to their Quasar SASE thing. But then there was another computer in that 5 meg drive case that did all the actual work, a standalone computer, just like a Commodore floppy drive. It actually did all of the hard drive interface. And there was actually just MFM drives inside.
That's neat to know.
So you could replace you could take a broken Tandy hard drive and put an MFM drive in it and fix it.
Yeah, if you could afford one, because if you bought one of the 5 meg primaries, they were like what, a couple grand?
Just so.
So, does anybody know if Burke and Burke was Burke and his wife, or Burke and his brother, or just
Burke and his wife, ex-wife now?
Oh,
Trish and Chris, yeah. And Chris, he worked at Motorola actually at the time he was doing this stuff. So
you had the inside news.
Was he someone we could have on the show or no?
I think we've asked him, and he didn't sound too interested last time we asked him. He's active on Facebook every once in a while. He actually was doing some other hardware stuff, and then he kind of disappeared. I should mention too that his little adapter board here, he actually had a couple other products in the works too, not just hard drives. He actually had a Logitech ScanMan scanner. He wrote a driver for. You could actually, that's the one you kind of rolled across the paper to scan in an image, and he actually had that running on the CoCo at one of the Rainbow Fests.
Oh, he'd be great to interview, wouldn't he?
Yep. Yeah, he would.
So yeah, this is the black one here that I got from Henry. But with that though, and I think this is the one maybe Chris or that you're talking about here. So here's the other version.
Yeah, that's one I have
of the case here, and a little bit cleaner line. This one here is kind of bent. Where this one, the black one, I don't know if it's going to come through on the camera or not. Well, not really. This side was wider, and this side actually was kind of was narrower, so it fit into the ROM socket. So the case actually kind of was wedge shaped a little bit. This one here has a little bit of a step on it right here. So you got the ROM cartridge side, and then you got the interface side here. Let me open this one up. This one doesn't require any screws. This one's actually kind of snap fit here with these. It's not coming through very well here with these little dimples. So you get a screwdriver underneath here, and it'll pop right open. Let me walk it open here. There it goes. One more on this side. There we go. And so this one here shows the other board that was available, where it's just the interface board, no real-time clock. But the circuitry's still there though. If you see right here, here's where the Dallas tree's still there though.
Your bandwidth just crashed, Brian.
Yeah,
he went away.
He shouldn't have touched that chip.
I guess he needed that real-time clock to
keep the stream going. Yeah.
Come on
there
back.
Okay, am I back now?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, a little choppy, but try it.
Hello. There we go. Okay, this.
No, you're still chopping up.
Intermittent.
That's why I haven't been able to host.
We're getting like 3 or 4 words and then a long pause and then another 3 or 4 words.
Am I buffering a little bit?
More than a little bit.
Oh, okay. Shoot.
Take that CoCo 2 off and put a CoCo 3 on.
Pause Netflix on your local.
Right. No, there's nothing going on right now that I'm aware of.
No, now you're fine.
Yeah, now you seem to be okay. The video
or...
quality went down, but I think your audio is coming through, so you can go ahead and try talking again.
Okay. Right. Okay. So this one here also has that Western Digital controller on it, like the other one did. But you can see here, as I was talking about, you can see where the battery would go. There's even the plus and minus. So this was the other version of the chip that was there. And this one here even has a little step off on the side right here, because this would have been a card that would have been used, could have been used in an IBM PC where you would put it into the bus. And so this one had the little standoff right there to kind of support it. And you still would have your ribbon cables coming out from the top right here. But yeah, this case, it looks kind of gold, but it looks silver. But when you hold it at the right angle, it looks kind of goldish, and other times it looks kind of silver. I don't know if that's normal. So,
for me, it always looked gold when I had it, but maybe had different finishes or something.
And maybe there was, yeah, maybe there's a different finish there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the very last one was a really sad little stamped out.
Okay, and as Ron just
he's got one. Of course he's got one.
There we go.
Of course he's got one.
Is this what you're talking about, Rick?
How does he not have one?
So yes, as Rick was talking about, yeah, this one here was different. I'm not sure if this would have been later in the process that he used this here.
Yeah, that was when all the good cases were gone, and this is what.
So yeah, so this here, it looks like it was like, I hate to say it because I mean it is nice though, but it almost looks like it was something that he had to manufacture himself. It just doesn't have that clean machine bends and things like that. But it's still a nice case though. It's all cut out nicely. But this one doesn't have the board in it though. But the board would have sat. Let's see here. Where do I lay that other one?
Is there lettering on? There's no lettering on it either, is there?
No, there's no lettering at all.
No, I think at this point Chris was trying to cut costs just to keep the product going a bit longer.
Yep. So let's see. This would have been the bottom of the case here, I believe. Yep, here we go. This would have been the bottom, and your board would have sat in it like this here.
Yeah, because this is around the time he was trying to do that 68,000 or 68,306. What did he call it, Rick? That booster card he was doing.
Let me ask you: do you think he got divorced between this version and the last version?
It's not nice.
Well, you just wonder.
So you can ask him. He's on Facebook, Ron.
Is he really? Okay, come on in. Tell us.
So yeah, as Rick was kind of showing, yeah, this was another case here, and like I said, maybe all the good cases were hard to get or very expensive to get. And so it's still a nice case, though. It certainly gave for a nice enclosure for the board and everything. And along those lines, we've already seen the interfaces, but I thought I would just show them separately. I also haven't. These are brand new. They've never been installed. I also have a couple of the interface boards themselves. Ooh. So here's the one with the real-time clock. And
how would you come across these? They come with a bunch of stuff, or?
No, this was a person probably 3 years ago, I think that's been, and he had one
How
item
could
that he
you
listed.
expect him to remember with all those items in the Brian Weasler warehouse?
Right. There was a guy that reached out to me. I wanted a particular item, and we started talking, and he had actually picked up a whole lot. And so we started talking about all the different items, and this was in with it, along with let me open up the other bag here. Some of these bags are so challenging to get open.
Well, see, he did remember.
So here's the other one without the real-time clock. So this would have been both versions of the interface. And I'm not sure if they were sold separately, because I got this case right here, and this all came as part of the same set. So I'm not sure if maybe this would just ship separately like this, but yeah. And even still had the battery too, wrapped nicely in some.
There's no lettering on it or anything.
What's that?
Turn them over. There's no lettering on the circuit board.
On the circuit boards themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, silkscreen cost more back then.
Right. Let's see here. There is a little bit right here in the corner. Right here, it says copyright 1988, Burke and Burke, CoCo XT, RTC, Rev 0.
But that's not silkscreen. That's actually copper.
Correct.
Yep. To save buying a silkscreen layer.
Right. But both boards are the same, as I talked about before. It was just whether or not the real-time clock chips were added to it.
Yeah, and if I remember, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, but the auto boot ROMs actually went into the ROM socket on the XT controller, didn't they?
Right. It was the boot ROM in the XT controller. Exactly.
Yeah, you swap the PC one out and put a useful one in there.
Right.
Okay. Is there anybody else have any questions about these items? If not, I'll show the one last thing that I was going to share with everybody.
Can I have it?
Can I have it?
Just for those who wanted to know, because I mean, if you remember back in the PC days, there was a bunch of hard drive size limits. There was a 32 meg limited in MS-DOS up till a certain version. But the XT interface stuff there that the Burke and Burke hookups to allows you to hook up to 128 meg drives on each.
Oh, okay.
Who would ever need any more space than that?
Right.
You can't even save an Excel spreadsheet now these days, can you?
Well, how much of the drive do you actually use when you're using either OS 9 or RS-DOS?
Well, you right now is, I think, close to half full of 128 meg image. And once we start adding all the other programs in there, like Deskmates and
you could fill
everything else that's missing,
tried.
yeah, we'll probably be getting pretty close to full.
Fantastic.
So back to kind of my original question. So I showed a black case, the silver gold case, and then this last case here. Do you guys know the timeline, or at least the order in which they came? Was the black one the first, and then the aluminum, or do you guys know?
Yeah, you were in order. The black one was first, and then the nice stamped one, as I recall, and then that last one was, like Curtis said, just to finish out the line.
Okay. Was there any other cases that anybody remembers that might have been out there?
Not that I remember seeing, but
no.
Okay.
I think some people might have made homemade ones at one point, or in my case, my TC9, I didn't have a case at all. I just put the boards right into the mini tower case. Right.
I've probably had 10 of these things, and you have all the 3 cases I've ever seen.
Okay. Because I'm assuming if you would have gone to a Rainbow Fest at the time, he might have been at a table just selling this board, probably.
No, he usually sold the case with it.
He got a case, a manual with a nice little strap holding it together. He was pretty.
Yeah, I still have that.
Let's see here what I do with it here. I do have a couple manuals here. Let's see here. Is this what you guys are talking about? I do have a couple of these manuals.
Yep.
Whoops. Let me back up the camera a little bit here.
No, those are for RSP. That's the Radio Shack Basic, which actually we have it in EOU.
That goes pretty far back in time. You know, the time of the Crusades, right?
I thought it was cool. His manuals always fit in a Tandy binder, so if you could steal some Tandy binders, you could just shove them all.
You couldn't put in your 07 level 2 binder because that was already way too full with pages as it was.
You had to steal an extra basic 09 binder or something.
Or maybe the multi-view binder or something.
For basic, yeah.
Right.
I always saw the Birkenberg on the CAD. Never saw it 3D till today.
Yeah. Well, I remember when Birkenberg, when they really took off with sales, because their solution was so much cheaper. Everybody else was selling SCSI Tandy was selling the Sassy drives, and they were, hundreds of dollars more than you could get a Birkenberg with an XT control, because XT was like bulk manufactured for PCs. And I remember his ads actually said 1988 is the year of the hard drive for the CoCo, because that's when sales took off, and he was selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them.
So do you think he's English, Scottish, or?
He's on Facebook, Ron. You can ask him.
Yeah.
Why don't you try to go have lunch with him, Ron? You can ask.
There you go.
Actually, he's not too far from Mark Overhoser. Oh, I think he still lives out on the West Coast.
Is he related to Steve?
Steve Burke?
Yeah.
The last item I wanted to show here, kind of CoCo related, but it certainly will work. I picked this up. It was just a Tandy 2-button mouse with it being serial. So
okay.
I'd like to get that going there. This should easily be you should be able to get this easily going in with OS 9, correct?
There's a driver for the RS-232 pack you can plug it into, and then it'll read any serial mouse, 2-button mouse.
Okay. So it was just, again, I had an opportunity to pick one of them up, so I thought, oh, nice and clean. Didn't have the box though, but still, it was nice and clean.
Let's see the bottom. It says Tandy.
Yep, it says Tandy. Actually, had a rubberized ball in it versus the steel ball, like with the.
Show us how you clean it.
No, I'm not going to show you how to clean
No.
the ball.
Why not?
How about that serial number?
Right?
Listen.
Oh no! Now I gotta do the challenge of getting that orientated correctly.
The peg in the round hole.
There you go.
I will mention that the early laser-based mice that Microsoft sold with the serial port actually work on the CoCo too, so you don't have to use a ball one either.
I did forget to grab it though, but I also picked up a mouse that's similar to this. It was one that Radio Shack sold. It has a base on it. It's a wireless mouse, but actually uses infrared. So it had an infrared base that the mouse would send the data back and forth, but from the base it's still a serial connection. So I'm assuming that if this would work, that same serial connection from that infrared mouse would probably.
If I remember correctly, some people did use that back in the day, like in the later Rainbow Fests, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I was going to grab that, and I forgot to, but it's as far as the CoCo is concerned, it's still serial information, and and I would assume that it would work the same way. So I thought that was.
I will mention EOU does not have a default for doing serial mice like as a pre-install swap boot thing, so you'll have to make your own custom boot file, but it definitely does work.
Okay, but the drivers are in there. You just, like you said, you just have to.
Yeah, you have to find and replace the what is it, JoyDriv, I think, with the 6551 version.
Okay.
Oh, you also have to specify whether it's a Microsoft mouse or a mouse system / Logitech mice, because those were 3-button mice. The protocol is different. So the two drivers do not work with the other mice.
Okay. Something to play with, something to learn. So, well, that's all I have for you, gentlemen. Unless anybody has any questions related.
How many more store warehouses do we have to go through to finish your entire lot?
I haven't even finished the first one yet. No.
I would believe that.
So, well, thank you for letting me share.
Cool. That's good. I'd forgotten all about that the last version of the case there. Now that you showed it, I kind of remember it, but I faintly remember the black ones, and then the gold ones is the ones I saw everybody had. But that later one I'd kind of forgotten about.
Was the black one maybe at a time when it was more expensive, so people shied away, and then by the time the silver case came down, prices came down, so people started.
I think just Chris was kind of surprised how much it took off, because I mean, when you talk to like a Canton and others doing SCSI and stuff, they would sell maybe 20, 30 things at a fest, and Chris, like the first year he had the XT one, I think he sold over 100. He ran out. He had to start shipping back when he got back to his office after the show type thing, and then he was just selling out every time.
So then
So I think-
the money justified making the better case.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to ask him, but I think he ended up selling thousands of them, probably more than his CoCo STCs.
Very nice. Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Brian. So I guess next up, we're going to go on for the Game On Challenge results,
Okay.
hosted by Mr. Ken, and then Slippy will talk about the live stuff if he's still around.
Okay. Okay.
You need more coffee, Ken.
Right here.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And now, Coco Thoughts by Samuel Guines. I went on a stellar odyssey and met the cosmic bomber. I don't understand Neutroid, but I'm fighting Gladiator. I went on another odyssey, had some fried donuts too. I escaped the Dakor zone, get confused by Neutroid 2. Cause I got Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy must be crazy. The guy must be crazy. Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy is out of his mind. He must be out of his mind. Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy is out of his mind. He must be out of his mind. I put all the donuts down. Angelo is angry. I can't spell rhythm now, but I make the space intruders flee. So I'm digitizing the world and ambush the other side. And there's this game that can't be identified. Cause I got Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy must be crazy. The guy must be crazy. Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy is out of his mind. He must be out of his mind. Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy is out of his mind. He must be out of his mind. I'm gonna crash through that gate, pop our pilot flight. Throw a waterfall, put that Gunstar in my sight.
Is this still working?
But
there's no sound.
Yeah, it's just going through the stream right now.
Ah, so what are we doing? Just playing background.
Now semi-graphic rally got several tricky pipes to plumb. Now 0 hours here, donut joystick, you can use your thumb. I see Joey's jumping now, dodging everything in sight. Threatened Neutroid 3, giving all of us a fright. Cause I got Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy must be crazy. The guy must be crazy. Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy is out of his mind. He must be out of his mind. Nick Marenti's fever. Nick Marenti's fever. The guy is out of his mind. He must be out of his mind.
I'll say.
Samuel Gimes is definitely making up for not doing videos.
Yeah,
in
that's got to be the
quantity.
longest song he's ever done.
At least we didn't have the guy in the duck.
He must have really been inspired by the quality of the game.
I didn't hear any sound playing that.
It was just over the stream.
We could.
It was Pac-Man fever. Don't feel bad.
But our voices were going out over the stream, just so
Yeah.
you know. So
Yes.
yeah.
That's why I was like going.
Oh, they're supposed to.
Basically, the whole song was a suck up to Nick Marentes. So, Nick, you didn't miss
so
anything
Nick, you'll have
important.
to watch it.
You
back.
missed
You'll
it
love
all.
it.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it back. That's right. I thought we were meant to be praying and idolizing it just in silence.
Well, let's put it this way: the title of the song was Nick Marentes' Fever.
Okay, I've definitely got to hear that, or maybe not.
I thought there was a shot for that.
Get that list in front of the screen again, Mark.
Seems like a good time to thank all our patrons.
There it was.
Sure. Welcome everybody to the CoCo Nation Game On Challenge of the Week results video. This week we played the Pac-Man Tribute game. We had a total of 15 players. Exile in Paradise had 5370. Ed Rhodes 6100. Mark B 6240. Canadian Retro Things 7010. Mr. Dave 6309 7330. Sloopy Malibu 12,560. 8 Bits in the Basement 16,010. Jim Rye 16,180. Coconut Bob 18,780. Shenley 21,320. Sabhead 23,120. Nick Marentes 24,450. L. Curtis Boyle 30,080. Paul Shoemaker 36,300. And the number one score this week was Tasman with 57,870. Thanks everybody that played, and we will see you again next week. All right, so there we have the results, which included a score by Nick Marentes. I'm not sure if it was photoshopped or not. He says it wasn't.
No, that's a real one. That's a real one.
I don't know whether to believe him or not.
I just like the fact that Nick, because he forgot that we're streaming our live voice over top of that, was mentioning that he got beaten by me. So that was great.
Yeah, I know that. I'm definitely. I think I posted a picture, screenshot I took of the game 10 years ago, whatever, that I played, and it was in the 40 something thousands.
Yeah,
but yeah, it goes to show over time I've lost it.
Well, your Photoshop skills just are not as good as they used to be.
No, these weren't Photoshop. The score would have been 87,000. But
so yeah, Pac-Man was we had a good turnout for that one. Pac-Man Tribute. And yeah, I don't know what to say about it. For tips and tricks, we talked about it a bit last week. It's just like your regular Pac-Man.
Except to get any patterns you may know, don't.
Yeah, any patterns you may know, don't try to use them, but do try and kill as many of the ghosts as you can when you eat the power-up pellet. That's the way to get points.
Yep. If you can get all 4 ghosts all at in one session, you get up to 3,000 points.
And actually, when you start getting up in level a little bit, going for the fruit is also a good way to build your score quickly.
And fruit, yep. The problem is that as you go in the higher levels, you don't have as much time. The ghosts revert back to chasing you much quicker. So the time to do that is in the early rounds, where you get the most time to do that. But yeah, I think the game itself is generally, as we saw, harder than the original.
Yep, that was a general consensus from a lot of people that play a lot of regular.
A typical Nick Morente's game.
Yeah.
Yes. Pac-Man extra difficult tribute.
That's right.
Yeah.
Extra sweat.
Nick took some of his programming cues from the European school of thought, which is to make everything pixel perfect and almost impossible.
At least it wasn't something with Cuthbert.
It's more challenging to make you want to play it more.
Does that actually work? Most people just say this is enough of this crap. I'm going on the next one. Actually, this one I don't find it super hard. It's different. I never did memorize patterns for the arcade Pac-Man, so I just kind of figured out one on Nick's that works for getting rid of half the dots without ever getting hit. And I generally do pretty good.
Oh, by the end of it, I could stay alive for at least the first 15 seconds without dying.
Yeah, this game requires you definitely to have the skills of being able to work out how to outrun and outsmart the ghost more rather than rely on a pattern.
There's my problem, trying to outsmart something.
yeah, trying to actually outsmart them by outrunning them or being able. You tend to look at the entire maze and try to work out where the ghosts are going, and therefore working out a way to escape them, rather than trying to memorize a pattern that they're going to follow. And that was something I never really liked that idea in the original Pac-Man anyway. So I thought that was a bit of a cop-out, having patterns. So hence I never put patterns in.
Yeah. The only thing I heard several complaints of compared to the arcade original, besides general difficulty and the fact that patterns no longer worked, was when you're going around the corners. Apparently, yours is much less forgiving getting caught by ghosts than the original.
Yeah, no, that I did. I will agree to that. But again, it just means you've got to be smarter to outrun them.
Now, a question for everybody here on the panel that played it. I was just wondering, did anybody play it using keyboard controls, or did everybody use joystick?
I use joystick.
Yeah, played it on keyboard. Worked really well.
Okay. And I'm assuming you used your brand new pistol grip joystick.
Actually, for this one, I used my converter and my Atari joystick.
Oh, okay. I thought you would have tried the...
I did try it with the pistol grip, but I found actually the digital Atari joystick was better.
Because that pistol grip is still an analog, isn't it? It's got a fair bit of throw on the joystick still.
It does.
And that's not really what you want. You want something there, small throw to make the move.
Let me tell you what you really, really, really want.
This is what I was using.
Oh, a very old
you don't
Atari
want the Atari
joystick.
CX40 style. No. What you want is a Gamester. So I played both the Pac-Man ROM and the transcode kind of guy, and the Tribute Pac-Man using Neil's Gamester joystick. That's how you want to play it, because it's an actual arcade joystick.
He's got arcade joystick. Yeah, that's
you
right.
You want to control it with something like this.
Arcade control stick. Yeah, well, that's an arcade type stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And cornering is not too bad on the Tribute Pac-Man using the Gamester.
The only problem with your arcade kit there, Sloopy, is it's wrong-handed for me.
It's a kit. You make it however you want it.
So it's not all pre-cut out?
The Gamester can be ordered for lefties too. That's what I have to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's the kit that just has the switches and buttons and stuff, and you make your front panel?
Yes. Yeah, it has the switches, the buttons, and the adapter to connect it to a PC.
So this requires soldering, so I'll never use it. Gotcha.
Yeah, but I have a CoCo, not a PC.
Well, connecting it to your CoCo is your problem.
A Gamester does not have this problem.
As helpful as always.
And every time I say Gamester, I'm hoping Neil cheers and that the check will be bigger.
8-Bits in the basement in the chat, they're saying he couldn't get the joystick working in VCC. I was wondering what kind of joystick was he trying to get working?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't try VCC. Did anyone notice any latency in the joystick response with the emulator.
I didn't.
No.
With MAME on the keyboard, sometimes there is a little bit, and that's not specific to the game. Most CoCo things seem to have just a little bit of pre-roll that you need to add to a keystroke for when you want it to happen.
Yep.
And I did notice that with the Pac-Man tribute, but because I always expect it when I'm trying to do the pixely perfect kinds of things, you just kind of anticipate a little bit more. You got to lead the ghost a little bit more, or lead the corner a little bit more.
Yeah.
8-Bits in Basement said he was trying an Xbox 360 controller when he tried it and it wasn't working in VCC. And Scott Cooper says he used Explorer with the keyboard controls, no issues at all. What did you play it on, Nick? Was you playing an Explorer or MAME? Or
on a real CoCo, using a Waco Atari style joystick. Works really well with that.
Yeah, I used Xroar with keyboard and with joystick.
I just used Paul Fiscarelli's little adapter, USB adapter for a deluxe joystick, the actual CoCo Deluxe 2-button joystick, and that's what I used.
Nice. You can see the ones I used here. I tried various ones, but the converted Nintendo digital stick worked pretty well. The little Arduino stick that I put in a cassette box, that works surprisingly well. Even though it's analog, it has really short throw, so it's quick to make the corners.
And Ron Delvaux, what did you use?
Dual stick.
He used the Force.
Yes.
He used a fence.
It's Black Beauty or nothing.
He just watched the attract mode.
That's good.
I don't really have any tips or tricks. I think I mentioned last week I usually play these types of games to try to see how many of the bonus shapes I can get to. I don't usually concern myself with score trying to get like all 4 ghosts lined up. I find that boring. So I don't generally do super well on these high score on the ones that were there's some sort of exploratory element. I usually stick with
still beat Nick Morentis.
Yeah, and he publicly admitted it. That was awesome.
I couldn't play. I had Nick fever.
Nick doesn't even understand that joke because he didn't hear the audio.
No, I didn't hear the audio.
Now, Nick, before we were in the pre-show there, Ken was mentioning you had found some stuff on the development of Pac-Man that you might share.
Gee, now I've got to look back and see.
Yeah, you said you wanted to share some stuff this week, so.
Let me have a quick peek. Or poke.
The floor is yours.
Well, I haven't found anything yet, so keep talking.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know.
Shall we touch on the other game that we played this week?
Sure.
Which was, what was that? Wizard's Den.
Yeah.
So this is more of an action slash arcade style game
or dungeon crawler or something.
It's kind of a mixture of everything.
And it's kind of a hidden gem because that was pretty late in the Atomics lineup. I think 86, 87 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it didn't really sell well. I remember seeing it, but I didn't really know anything about it because I didn't really advertise it much either. There was no screenshots that I remember in Rainbow. So I didn't see it until years later. And I was going, this is actually a really damn good game for the CoCo.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the reaction of a few people that they wish they had known about this back when it came out because it would have been one they played a lot.
Yeah.
So
a lot of exploring in this one. That's my favorite. You get to go inside buildings and dungeons and doors and try to find, extra swords and potions. And it's a pretty intricate. It's kind of like a CoCo unique version, not version of, but kind of along the lines of like a Zelda where you're trying to like wander through this huge landscape and trying to gather things and kill monsters, etc.
It really kind of reminded me a bit of Gauntlet.
Yeah, a bit, or Time Bandit.
Yeah.
Which actually some of the trees and stuff actually look like they're inspired by because the graphics are similar. They're not the same, but they are similar.
There was a good joke in the thing about, I think it was Nick was saying how he didn't like the wrong color palette with the orange trees.
Yeah, my VCC was acting weird on that one. I would go and tell it to configure colors. It would do it.
And then
And then the next VSync, it would slap it right back.
Oh, what was happening with mine is you would change it to the right color set, but then it wouldn't let you start the game. It would just keep going back to the title screen.
Oh, okay.
Whatever
Mine
you-
would let me play, but it would just immediately, as soon as the next VSync happened, it would slap it back. So you'd get a brief flash of the correct color, and then it would immediately set it back to the backwards one.
But as it was said in the thing, the orange trees may look ugly, but their juice is delicious.
Yeah, that was Mark Siegel. No, that's like a hidden gem on the CoCo. I think that particular game. It's actually very well done. There's a lot to it. Like you won't get bored, and you're not done in 10 minutes on that game. It's like Dragon Slayer. That's another one. So if Dragon Slayer was early enough, you actually got pictured ads from Tom Mix. I don't remember any picture ads from Wizards Den, or if there was, it was maybe one issue. So that was a good one. I don't think Matt Harper ever did anything else, as far as I know, that I've seen. Which is too bad, because obviously he had good skills. Yeah, because it's a really good game, and it's not super hard, so you don't get frustrated like a lot of RPGs get so monotonous and kill this, and you get kind of bored if you're not into that type of game. But this one actually keeps the action going. That's why it's more of an arcade hybrid, because it's not that boring and dull where you're just killing monsters over and over and over again. And it's one of those rare RPG style dungeon crawler games. Actually, the score is actually a real score. It's not just you're trying to build your party and gather some magic item to win the game or something.
Yeah,
that was a really good pick, Ken. I'd kind of forgotten about that one.
Well, actually, you can thank Boat and Aaron for that one, because
that's right. Yeah, so the next
it's their. I just did it to coincide with them for the CoCo show, so because I actually never had heard of this. The first time I heard of it was when it was chosen for that show. So,
yeah, I mean, it's been on my site for quite a while, but I haven't had a chance to really go back to it. So actually, I had a lot of fun going back to it. I'm going to try to concentrate on more this week here.
Hey, Ken, I can think of a game that was put out in July of '84 in Rainbow that we could never play. Do you know what that game would be?
July '84 Rainbow would be that would be Curtis's eidetic
The scratch and sniff one, isn't it?
That's right.
There you go.
Why can we never play it? Because we don't have the.
I still have my scratch and sniff, but since I already scratched and sniffed it, it doesn't smell like anything anymore other than paper. So it's kind of
Curtis has a freaky eidetic memory when it comes to stuff like that.
He sure does. I thought that was a.
Curtis, you remember which page from the July '84 that was featured on?
Well, the scratch and sniff was a little insert page. You actually could tear it out if you wanted to. Mine's still in the magazine, but. And I remember there were 6 squares you had to scratch. One was pine needles that smelled like pine. And then the other one, I can't remember. There was some sort of fruit. It was a banana or something. And then I don't remember the other 4. I don't know if I ever won that game, actually. I kind of cheated and just scratched them all to try to figure out what the hell they were.
You can't play that game with a cold.
Nope. Or if you got, COVID and you got that loss of smell thing there, you can't play it either. So
it doesn't smell like anything.
So, Nick, did you find anything about?
No, not really. I thought I might have had something there, but no, didn't have anything there.
So, no behind the scenes stuff from Nick.
No, not on Pac-Man.
Yeah. So why did you promise it then, Nick? That's my question.
Nick doesn't get the fever.
No, that's right.
Do you have any development stories? Anything interesting from when you were making it? I know that you recorded the sounds from the actual arcade machines on a cassette recorder.
Yeah, well, that story. But I mean,
like, how did you do the graphics? Did you take pictures of the arcade and try to match them as close as possible, or what?
No, well, I just saw pictures in a book or a magazine, and I just
blatantly copied. I mean,
just drew them. Yeah. I just drew them.
Tribute, not copy.
Because I had to make it fit the vertical resolution properly on the CoCo, and so I just drew it all from scratch and made it fit. I think when I did the graphics for the maze, I only drew half the maze, because then it's just mirror imaged across to the other half. So,
actually, I do have one question, Nick. I don't know how much you remember. In your credit screen, you mentioned that Sockmaster John Kowalski was your beta tester.
Yeah.
Did he find any early bugs, or did he critique any of your programming or anything like that? What was his involvement as far as testing?
Like I keep saying, none of my programs have bugs.
It must be the fever.
No, I just wanted. Do you remember if he found anything that
No,
you
he
missed?
didn't. No, he didn't.
So he just was rubber stamping your stuff, basically.
Pretty well, yeah. Yeah, no, Pac-Man went through fairly smoothly when in development. I didn't have any major disasters or stories to tell about that. It all worked first pop.
I don't believe that for a second.
Well, Nick,
Yeah,
which
no.
game, which game did you have trouble with? Did you have any that you had trouble with, or were they pretty much all pretty smooth?
Oh, some of them. Trying to think now.
Well, there's a few you've had to do little patches afterwards. Pac-Man you did
patches
too, but it was
afterwards.
pretty minor. I think it was like color and maybe
that was more cosmetic.
PAL
Yeah, there
NTSC
wasn't-
swapping or something.
Yeah, there was the timer. In order to get PAL and NTSC to work the same, because it was slightly faster on NTSC. So when it played the music or the credit or the cutscenes rather, it played a bit faster than on the on a PAL machine. So I just fixed that up. Just it wasn't really important. You could still play it all without the patches.
Nick, when you're programming and stuff, and you come into a roadblock, or where you just can't go any further, do you just let it go and come back to it the next day, or do you find somebody to help you, or?
No. Like you said, I just leave it, and
usually you
I
jump to a
start-
different project and do something else totally different. And when you come back,
Yeah,
your
I
brain's
can
kind of fresh.
usually,
Basically, another
yeah.
version of Gractoid every time he runs into a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
One trick extra pony there. That's what we're saying, basically.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Sometimes I get so stuck trying to fix a bug, I figure I'll just leave it, and I'll just dream about it subconsciously, and in the morning when I wake up, I have the answer. That's happened quite a few times. So
Yeah,
I
that's
must
even
dream-
happens to me too. Like that's a weird thing. I don't know if other programmers experience that too, where just a night's sleep, all of a sudden it's obvious. Like why didn't I think of that yesterday after 6 hours trying
What
to
was
figure it out?
this dumb thinking about?
Yeah.
I mean, you spend hours trying to fix a bug or to work out something, and you can't get anywhere. So you say, "Oh, bugger it! I'll just go to sleep." And in the morning, within 5 minutes, there's the answer.
Fine.
And I'm thinking, I don't know. I was thinking about it all night, maybe, or maybe
For
just
me, when I program, I'll go to sleep and wake up in the morning, and I still can't program.
Oops.
Yeah.
So Scott Cooper was asking how you did the collision detection between Pac-Man and the ghosts.
He's probably thinking about in the corners. I'd have to look. I can't remember exactly. It would have been just checking probably the center of the ghost to see if the center of a ghost equals the center of the Pac-Man, which is why around the corners where they collide more or something. But I'd have to look it up. It's been 20 years ago.
Now, have you ever considered, or would you consider making a Mrs. Pac-Man, where you'd have like moving
No.
fruit and then different mazes, etc.? Because your
Move
core
on.
code's basically done. You could actually probably skin it pretty quick.
You could, yeah, but I mean, like with me, what I did back then and how I do it now, I could do it so much better. So, you learn things over the years. You think, oh well, I'm not gonna, if I'm gonna do that, I'll do it this way, which means okay, rewrite. So
You mean like your
I'm not
third
one-
or fourth attempt on Neutroid here, still trying to make it into a viable game?
yeah. Oh, it will be. It will
Oh,
be.
come on, Curtis. The Model 1 and 3 version is a
Yeah,
viable
he did it
game.
right the first time and has screwed it up every subsequent time since.
Yeah, three shows from now, we're gonna ask why is it Nick hasn't showed up here?
Actually, he's like Nick does this quite a bit too. He'll usually have a couple projects going at once, and if you get a bit too flustered or stuck on a certain spot,
You move on another one.
if the overnight sleep thing doesn't solve it, then you'll switch to the other project and do that for a bit, and then when you come back, you're totally fresh. But he does have a second project that actually I'm much more interested in, so I'm hoping that actually happens. I'll buy that one. I'll tell you that. I'm probably not going to buy Neutroid again. Fooled me
You'll
once
be
already on that stupid
sorry.
thing.
It's looking good so far. Sloopy's gonna love it. Actually, Sloopy could be my main game tester.
Well, Curtis doesn't want to.
He'll be your only advertiser for it,
Well-
pretty sure. So
Won't that really
Probably.
deplete the amount of people that are going to get it if you give it to Sloopy off the start?
there goes your one sale.
Yeah, aren't I the entire target sales audience?
You'll have to autograph it for him, Nick. Send the beta copy and charge him $100 for being a beta tester or something.
No, Neutroid's more of a personal project. It was pretty well one of the first games I ever did on.
Even on the Model 1.3. So those are one of your first, or your very first ML one, wasn't it?
On the CoCo it was. On the Terrasati, I think it might have been the second one. I did have
because some of
one.
your early Terrasati ones, and actually we'll be working with Chronological Gaming because we'll be hitting some of them in 1982. I think most of those were like hybrids, like Stellar Odyssey was part basic, part ML.
The first one was. There was also another one I called Cosmic Bomber, which I've lost. That's another story. But anyway, I lost that. But Neutroid was but probably the second Terrasati Model 1 game I did. And then Neutroid 2 on the CoCo was the first one. So yeah, it was just something I've been, doing or making for a long time, and it's just almost sentimental value.
Nick, one more programming question. Have you ever been a beta tester for anyone else?
No, because I whine a lot.
Yeah, I discovered that he actually has been. He's been a beta tester for G Shell Multiview on Nitrous 9, and I can definitely acknowledge the whining.
Yeah.
Hey, I went. I went and got a Model 1 just so I could play the original Neutroid.
Yeah, he did. Well, the thing is, you need to have a whiner because they're the ones that it's better to pick up the whining and the problems early, because better than having everyone whining later on.
No, actually, I'll have to say, I mean, in all seriousness, that views wouldn't have existed except for Nick's whining. And it actually proved to be quite useful, so I have to acknowledge that.
There you go. Whining helps.
So beta testers never have the final game, right?
No.
Sometimes they do.
Their hard drive is full of
normally
broken programs.
I don't send out test versions every now and then while I'm developing. I usually do finish the game as much as I can, and then give a beta tester a test.
Basically, he sends it to Buck Owens because Buck is going to find something to break a game. That's
well, I have done so for the last 2 games. Yeah, he's good at breaking things. He knows how to find things.
Plus, he's a phenomenal game player. So if you want to get all the levels of a game tested, he's probably the fastest
Apart
person
from
to
that,
make it.
But he goes and does all these other things. He says, what if I try going there, and what if I try doing this? Most people wouldn't even bother doing that, and in most cases, it's a useless thing to do. But you can do it, and he will do it, and then he'll come back and say, "Oh, look, I just discovered if I do this, I can get extra points, or I can,
or the game freezes or something." Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
He's a really good beta tester. He's very thorough.
He's a good beta tester. That's right. Yeah, he was really good.
He doesn't actually know how to program, does he?
He does somewhat, because he actually goes. So he's gone through
yeah.
disassembling listings and stuff.
Maybe
even game challenge stuff here to figure out what's this bug in this game. How would I fix it?
Well, maybe he's fixing your code and sending it back to you.
No,
extra features.
I wish he would. No.
No, then you have to share royalties.
Oh.
But yeah, I think having not just a whiny game tester, because they can be a pain. We've got Curtis for that.
Yeah, tell me about that, Nick.
I test a lot for Simon, and he used to send me lots of stuff. And I don't know if he does it anymore because of maybe I stopped whining. I don't know.
You need the whining, but you also need someone who really can play it over and over and try every angle. And yeah, Buck Owens does the job.
Yep. And not just on CoCo games. He does it on other platforms.
He does
that
it
are
on
getting
lots
new
of
ones.
things. He's a machine.
He's AI, you mean?
I reckon he's AI, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you've seen some of his scores when he actually concentrates on the game, it's like he triples everybody else.
Yeah, pretty well. So yeah, that's handy.
And he's only 14.
That would have been the way it happened in the old days, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pac-Man, I only had Sockmaster and there was no problems with that. That was fairly smooth running, that game, actually.
Yeah. It was a good game. I definitely bought that one because I tried it at CoCo Fest, and I can't remember. I got 62 of your serial numbers or something. So
did we ever have Mr. Kowalski on?
Yep. Yeah, full interview with him. And he's been on a couple other times talking about other projects too. Anyway, I think we've probably beaten that one to death.
Pretty well.
So Ken, if you want to announce the next game.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I would like.
So David
Sloopy,
Kroeker will be joining us. No, go ahead.
I think Sloopy should talk about the live show that we did this week. Well, I show some footage.
I should.
Yeah. You should.
Now we should mention for anybody who's watching that live stream, there was some problems with the internet, I think, because the stream actually dropped off after an hour or something.
Yeah, we had
weird
some
colors,
technical difficulties. Yeah, we had up to 5-6 people playing, and fun was had by most. And
by most,
except for those of us that played Pac-Man.
Yeah.
No, Pac-Man was fine. It was such a relief after playing Neutroid.
You'll be sorry.
I could make a response, but this is the family.
Somebody's
show.
gonna say asparagus on Neutroid.
I wish that would work, because he's still making a new version of it. So,
well,
go ahead, Sloopy.
So, it was such a great game, and Nick is such a great game writer that we're going to be doing a special all Neutroid month.
What's the date, so I know when my day off is?
No, it's a whole month.
It's a whole month.
Oh, right on holiday.
Wait,
see you guys in July.
No, we're gonna do July, all of July, all Neutroid, all July.
Can we do it in
You never
August?
know.
I'm going to be away.
Nope.
By July, I might have the new Neutroid done.
Right, because we're going to play the old one up until the new one's released as a way to get excitement and attention for it.
Motivation to get
or lose
Motivation.
sales. It depends on who you talk to.
That's when all the refund requests start coming to Nick. That's what I'll say.
And as a side note, if I end up disappeared, see this list of people around me. Those are the first ones to interview about my whereabouts.
Because it's a group that will all deny it, so nothing will happen.
Yeah.
We're everybody else's alibi.
Well, actually, yeah, a refund to all purchases of Neutroid 2 wouldn't be so bad, because I actually never sold any. So refunds.
Gee, I wonder why.
I would have no refund.
I still want my money back for a free game.
So that's a good sales point. Every game, no refunds guaranteed. Because there never was any per sales.
Game is so good that not one was returned.
That's right.
Have you thought of renaming Neutroid to like Neutroid Man to have coattails from Pac-Man?
Space Neutroids or something? Yeah.
It's called Neutroid Reloaded.
But back onto our more serious topic. Yeah, we had several people playing Pac-Man and the usual complaints from the peanut gallery. And A few of them started up the new game.
It's Curtis.
Which seems to be coming along popular. So let this be a warning to you. Don't let Sloopy pick the game of the week, because every single one he picks
is Neutroids.
Be a problem. But yes, join us next week at Thursday at 8 p.m.
Eastern
U.S. time. Remember, it's CoCo Nation, so you have to give the specific time zone in addition to the time. Where we'll be playing that game that's in the top right corner right there.
Wizard's Den.
Wizard's Den. And
Says it right on the screen.
And we will also be playing, back to you, Ken.
Oh, okay. That means I have to stop sharing this. All right. The other game we will be playing it's a nice simple one.
Uh-oh.
Does anybody recognize this one?
Elevator action.
Oh, is that the prickly pear one?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I know it is.
From out here?
Anybody else?
Is it from out here in
Cuthbert goes
Arizona?
to Texas.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Ron.
From out here in Arizona.
Prickly pear? I think so, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
What's it called?
I'm loading.
It's the feeling you get when you play Neutroid. That's what the title is.
Shaft.
Shaft. So the idea of the game is
That was
that you
quick.
have to move across each level and avoid getting hit by the elevators.
That sounds too harsh.
Oh, man.
And we will be playing on the easy level. So this is the title screen here. And we will be playing on the Ruckford level.
You
James
said that
Bond.
well.
Yes, I practiced.
Be careful.
It's not an easy game, I will tell you that.
It is not an easy game at all, but it's a very simple concept.
It is fun, though.
Yeah. And of course, we will be playing Wizard's Den for another week. So
The sleeper hit of 80, whatever the heck year it was. 87?
Yeah. We'll see how frustrated people get with this game. So
Am I going to start playing Neutroid instead on the Game On Challenge Live?
I think you have a brain block that's all you ever want to play, so. Which would be okay if it was actually a game.
It is a game.
all right, enough Neutroid talk. Come on. We're supposed to be
Or
talking
we can
about
play
Shaft.
we can play Ken Reichert's Nutroid. That would be a better one.
There.
Or
We're
I
supposed to be
could go,
talking about Shaft and
Or I-
about Wizard's Den
Wizard's
right
Den.
now.
or I could go completely insane and just play Nitrous 9 Ease of Use Edition.
Oh, yeah, there's tons of games to pick on there that are better than Neutroid, so.
But yeah, I look forward to playing it. And you remember what I told you? I had a game that was picked out the next time I have to play.
Uh-huh.
And so I wasn't going to tell you what it was so that you wouldn't pick it.
Yeah. Was it Shaft?
And then you go and pick this game,
Yeah.
which I'm happy to say was not it.
Oh, okay.
And for those of you who want to play it on real hardware, Shaft runs on a CoCo 1 or 2. So both the games that are going on this next week here are CoCo 1 and 2 games. Don't need a CoCo 3 here.
Also runs on CoCo 3, though.
Yeah. If you're playing a real one, you might want to type RGB first to get the proper colors if you have an RGB monitor. It's joystick required, I think. It's not keyboard, right? I haven't played it in a while.
I think it's joystick, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it only needs 16K, 32K maximum, so it doesn't even need that much
Yeah.
resources. So
And there is no, there's not an instruction screen. So basically, yeah, like I said, you move across each level, avoiding the elevators. And when you get to the far side, you have to wait for the other elevator to come down and get on it. Because if you step out into the shaft, the elevator shaft, you die. There's a lot of ways to die in this game.
yes.
Is there a instruction manual for it?
I have no idea.
I don't remember seeing one on the archive. I could be wrong. There's definitely some ads in Rainbow if you want a bit general, description of it. There's a few ads from Prickly Parrot
Well,
that kind of describe the game.
I was saying for our our weekly
reading.
reading.
I'm looking it up right now to see if we have.
Yeah, because he's a week behind, so he's going to have to do both Wizard's Den and Shaft at the same time.
Yeah, the Wisdom manual is definitely on the archive. I did look it up because there was a couple of things I had to look up.
There
like
is
some of the
no
potions
Shaft with
Manual?
manual that I can see.
Oh,
So if
then-
anybody finds one somewhere, then they can post it.
Yeah, you're probably your closest bet if you want something similar would either be one of the ads from Prickly Pear, and I'm pretty sure it got reviewed in Rainbow at some point, so that might also be worth a dramatic reading if we can't find the actual manual. By the way, I got an update from David Kroeker. Just he's going to be our guest a little bit later. He says he's almost here. He had to download a new version of Zoom.
Absolutely,
Yes.
because I am done. Game on.
Yay.
The CoCo Nation Show is an unscripted, live, and interactive broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own, and not necessarily those of the CoCo Nation Show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds are encouraged, and a sense of humor is recommended. Thank you for being a part of the CoCo Nation.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Taylor. We're watching the CoCo Nation Show. Yeah, we are. Woo! You should too.
The CoCo Nation Show would like to thank the following patrons: Alex Gayer, Brendan Donahue, Brian Walsh, Brian Weasler, Kieran Anscombe, Daddy Burrito, Diego BF109, Dinty's Hideaway, Don Barber, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Grant Leedy, John Boat of Carshaller, Henry Strickland, Justin Larson, Ken Reichard, Mike Rayburn, Patrick Euland, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, R. Allen Murphy, Retro Tech Time, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Steve Batson, Terry Steege, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., Tony C., and William Athing. Thank you so much, patrons.
Okay, and our guest has actually just showed up too. So, David, if you want to unmute yourself.
All right, are you hearing me now?
Yep.
Excellent.
So, David, this was actually your very first CoCo Fest you've been to this past one, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I've been always wanting to go ever since high school days, back when it was Rainbow Fest. But this was the first time I actually made it out, and it was a lot of fun. I'm really glad I was able to make it.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to you too much at your booth, but I know you had your null modem cables there, and you're actually running P51, two head-to-head CoCos linked up, which is pretty popular.
Yeah. I've still got a few left here. If anybody wants one, let me know.
Yeah, I should mention there's some other games that actually work that way too. There was like most of them are like board style games like chess and checkers and Othello and stuff like that, but there was a space trading one that AlphaSoft put out for OS9. It was part of their OS9 level 2 BBS system. Actually, you could have up to 10 players and they could log in separate times and do all their moves type thing. But that one actually allowed some live stuff as well. So that might be another one to try with an all modem cable.
Yeah, I didn't know there was more that used it. That would be cool. My son and I just tried using VIP Terminal just to chat back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
Give him a taste of what we used to do back in the day over the phone line and stuff. So we had a bit of fun with that. But I didn't know there were more games we could try out. So I'll have to definitely check those out.
And you should be able to, like with OS9 level 1 or level 2, if you just redirect a shell or the login command or tsmon or something like that, you should be able to actually log in from the other one and actually run two programs on the same CoCo, just on two different screens.
Yeah.
How many of those cables did you end up selling there? Just because I know a lot of people hadn't really tried the head-to-head version of P51.
Yeah, not a lot. Maybe I think I came back with 5, and I had 7, or sorry, I had 12. So I think
you didn't do too bad then.
7. So I did okay. Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I just kind of ordered a couple of batches of the DIN connectors, and I'll make some cables and see what happens. So
yeah. I know back in the day, one of the big selling points of Tom Mix is that you could actually hook up 2 modems. You could play like across the country or across the world. That was the big thing, rather than having to have 2 CoCos in the same room. But there's a lot of the people like Brian Weasel have like 5,000 CoCos, so they could just make a whole network of it playing P51.
whole basement of P51 matchups. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. So you kind of announced on Discord, I think just yesterday, right? You're actually got a new hardware project, and you're planning on actually making both the boards and then also getting some of the equipment that use the board. Because a lot of people haven't had a chance to catch up on Discord today, I thought I'd let you make the announcement.
Yeah, sure. I just posted it this morning, actually. I've been, maybe I'll just kind of talk about what it is, and then I'll go back and talk about how it started a bit later on. I've been working off and on for probably 3 years, not the whole time, of course. This project just started and stopped a whole bunch of times because I've been stalled or just busy with other stuff. But I've been working on making a replica of the Lycan adapter that Dicom Products put out for 2 games that they made for it, the Iron Forest and Medieval Madness, back in the late 80s. And this is my first working adapter board right here. I don't know why you can see that. Going to try and get it in the camera for you as best I can. I'll pop the cover off for a second. And you can see the inside a little bit. I just got it working earlier this week after a little bit of back and forth with Tim Lindner. I started the project, or got the idea for the project, after I saw his MacMess site. And so if anyone wants to kind of know more about it, definitely look up Tim's site. If you Google macmess.org and then add to your search Dicom Light Gun, you'll find it right away. He reverse engineered it, had a schematic on his site of the full circuit, a few photographs of the original circuit board, and some diagrams, and a little bit of a step-by-step description of how the circuit actually functions. And I think if I recall correctly, it's a 16-state machine on the board, and he talked about kind of how it clocks through from one state to another, what causes it to advance. So Tim knows way more about the hardware aspect than what I do. I basically was just learning how to solder. I'd got a soldering iron from our soldering station from my parents for Christmas. I think it was Christmas 2019. So early 2020, I started looking for some projects I could do with it. I bought a few little kits to solder up just to learn how to solder. But this was one I thought, I wonder if I could learn how to make a circuit board. You see all these YouTubers like Ken, who's on the show right now, who posts about PCBWay all the time. It's definitely possible to make PCBs. I could probably learn how to, design a board, especially if I've got a circuit or like a schematic like this that actually is documented already. I wouldn't have to design the circuit or anything. So that's kind of how I got started on it. And yeah, just kind of got into Easy software I decided to use. It's an online PCB design tool. I'm not saying it's the best one out there. If I did it again, I probably would try something like maybe Eagle or KiCad, some of the ones I've heard you guys talking about later on. But I was able to get Easy 88 to work, put the schematic into it, and made a few mistakes along the way, this being my first board I've ever done. And but ordered my minimum 5 from JLC PCB is who I ordered them from, and soldered them up, ordered all the pieces, and I had to do a bit of work to get everything to work because of some of the mistakes I'd made on the board design. One thing I learned is you should print the board design out on paper so you see how big everything actually is, and stick your components around to make sure stuff actually physically fits, because I had a few problems like that. But I did eventually get it all to work. With the addition just this last week, I realized I'd missed 3 traces on the original board. They weren't explicitly documented on the schematic that I was going off of, but the name. They're just grounds to the IC. So it's like an embarrassing, dumb mistake. I don't even want to say what it was. But as soon as I added the bodge wires to ground those 3 ICs, it just worked right away. So yeah.
Yeah, because you've actually got some test software. You posted a few screenshots of actually reading where the gun's aimed at when you click the button, for example.
Yeah, that's not my software. Tim sent it to me. Tim Linder sent it to me. He actually pulled it out of, I'm guessing he's using MAME to grab pieces of the code from Medieval Madness. So this is part of the Medieval Madness code he's extracted. And he's got a little basic program that's running and just polling the joystick port that the trigger is hooked up to from the light gun. And then it's calling a machine language routine that he's extracted from Medieval Madness. So I can't tell you a ton of the background of what's in there exactly, but it did work very well. My first test with it before I had those bodge wires in, I posted a picture of that. You're kind of seeing like the same 2 numbers all the time. That what the test software does is you point your gun at the screen and just shoot the screen, and the test software will pop up your X and Y coordinates of where you were aiming when you pulled the trigger. And I was getting the same 2 numbers all the time, no matter where I would aim, at the screen, away from the screen, whatever, it didn't matter. But once I added those 3 traces in for the grounds, it was just working right away. It's like I could see the numbers changing when I move around. And then I fired up Iron Forest, and for the first time ever, I was able to play it, which was really, really fun to see it actually working. And having, looked over those full color ads in Rainbow Magazine back in the day when I was in high school, like I'm sure a lot of you did, it was kind of my dream to be able to play some of these games. It was neat to make that happen. And I'm hoping through making some of these boards available to people that more people can have that experience too and enjoy it.
Yeah, and you also mentioned on your post on Discord that you're actually getting a bunch of the actual guns in. I think it sounds like you have to repair them first, so these are probably not fully working, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a lot of non-working Sega Master System light guns that I picked up on eBay. I'll be picking them up this coming weekend, so about a week from now. And I'm not sure of the state of all of them. I'm going to guess the cords are probably shot on a lot of them, like right below the strainer leaf, the cord often goes. In fact, the one that I have that I was given by a friend, that was exactly the problem that I had with it too. I had to just cut it and splice the ends together, and now it works perfectly again. And the joint is inside of the gun, so you don't see it. Just maybe you lost it, 2 inches of cable. So I'll probably have to do that to several of them. And there are some that are missing the plastic piece that covers the very back of the gun. In fact, I have a gun right here. I'll just grab it. See if we can get it to focus. But the piece that's missing on a lot of these ones will be just this little piece right on the back that covers the hole. Yeah. But there's a model available on Thingiverse to 3D print that exact piece. So I'm thinking I'll just get a friend with a 3D printer to print me some of those, and we'll be able to make the guns complete and working. And so I'll be able to have a gun available with each one of the 4 boards that I'll be fully building those out. I want to keep one for myself of the 5, of course, but the other 4 I'll be making available with a gun. If anyone needs the gun, if they have their own, then then we'll have some guns available for other people who maybe want to make their own boards later on. So
and do you plan on making it like available as a finished product type thing?
I'm thinking of maybe making a kit that's available for people to order with all the pieces that they need to put it together. I'm not sure. Now that I've had one actually work, I'm a little more open to building more of them. For a while there, I was pretty sure I didn't want to build more once I got these finally going. But once a little more time passes, if I sell these 4 and there's demand for a few more, I probably would be, have my arm twisted to make a few more if people want them.
Okay, I'm just wondering for the people like me that can't solder. Like, if you send me a kit, you might as well just send me a piece of paper, because that's all I'm going to do.
So get your name in early, and you can have one of the first 4 then.
Yeah, well, I've actually got an original Dicom one, so
there you go. You don't even need one of these.
So this is not going to work on an LCD screen or whatever, right?
It will not work on an LCD. No, you have to have a CRT. Yeah.
Okay.
And where do I send my kidney to get one?
It'll cost you even less than a kidney, actually. So I haven't come up with the final price yet, because I haven't finished building them all yet. I just got my first one working. But I'll definitely get some information out. We'll get it onto the show of prices and how to contact me to get them and stuff shortly.
Yeah. Actually, since we have you on anyway, how much do you charge for the null modem cables in case anybody's interested in those?
Those ones I was selling for $20.
So 20 plus shipping then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm based out of Canada, so shipping's a little more unless you're willing to wait till I make a little trip over the border and mail them from a post office.
Where are
Well,
you in Canada?
The good people live in Canada already anyway, so.
There you go. Ron was asking where I am in Canada. I'm right in the middle, close to Winnipeg is where I am in Manitoba.
Oh, you're right by D. Bruce Moore then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's in Winnipeg. And I'm not too far from you either, probably about 6.5 hours. We probably drove pretty close to you, Ken and I, on the way down through the ice storm.
Probably, depending where you came over the border. Yeah, I wasn't coming down I-29 like you guys. I was a little bit further east, but yeah, pretty close.
So you're
probably.
right by my cabin, actually, right near my cabin.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because he's in the western part of Ontario, so.
Yeah, I'm close to Dryden, so.
Couple hours drive away, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful country up there for sure.
Yeah. Now, you'd mentioned when we were kind of talking about it before the show that you actually have done a few design changes or are planning on a few design changes to the interface. So one thing I wanted to ask you, the original one requires a 9-volt battery. Have you got any thoughts about making it so you just get a power pack that plugs straight in and you don't have to worry about swapping batteries out all the time or trying to find an adapter?
That is an excellent question because that's a little bit of a story in itself. My original plan was I did not want to use a 9-volt battery with this thing. I mean, I just thought it was a little bit silly to have cables hanging out of the box with your 9-volt battery out of the box. So either I wanted to do, you know, an AC to DC little power adapter that would just plug into a port. That was my first choice. Or I at least wanted the battery to be inside the box. And if I hold this up, you'll see I did not accomplish either of those things with this one. But that's not my final plan. I do have a little port on the side. And my plan was to just plug an AC adapter in. And I have an adapter that it says it's rated for 9 volts DC. You know, it should be the same as plugging a battery in, right? But it puts out more than 9 volts, like quite a bit more. And that adapter, I got to work with only one of my 5 boards. And I was stumped for the longest time of, well, what is going on? The traces are all intact on all these boards to bring power out to the sockets. But only one of the boards actually had, you know, the 5 volts on the VCC on all the IC sockets. And I could not figure it out. And finally, in the end, after testing all the traces on one of the non-working boards, I just figured, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to solder on the leads from this 9-volt battery connector, and I'm going to see what happens. So I plugged in the 9-volt battery, and sure enough, I get voltage all over the board. So it's almost like the AC to DC adapter I had was putting out so many volts that the voltage regulator was just saying, no, I'm not doing it.
Well, most old school adapters need enough load to pull their voltage down to their rating. So if it says 9 volts, it's 300 microamp, you need 300 microamp load to make that sucker work. The modern ones that don't weigh anything are really nicely regulated, but those are so new that they don't, you know, you'd have to go buy one.
Yeah.
And you could buy a lot of 9-volt batteries for the price of buying an adapter.
Well, the thing is, like, if you're playing these games a lot, your 9-volt battery will get drained pretty quick. In fact, in the manual for the original Dicom games, they warn you, like, when you're not using it, unplug your battery because it'll be dead in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And it's not the most convenient thing. Like these clips, you probably use them. They hang on pretty good, right? And if you're popping the battery on and off all the time, it's a little bit annoying. So I'm at least, if I don't find, you know, AC to DC adapters that work well, I'll at least get a little, you can get little cables on AliExpress that have a plug on the end that plugs into this port and then the 9-volt battery clip on it. So then you could just unplug it quickly instead of having to unclip the actual battery from this end here, right? So that's sort of my backup plan. AliExpress also has a little cable with the USB plug on one end to pull, your voltage from a USB port, and then it has, you know, a plug like this on the other end, and they say it's supposed to be a step up to output 9 volts. I don't know if that would actually work.
What ports does it plug into on the CoCo?
It just plugs into the joystick port and the serial port. So there, I know there is a there's
so
a
how
VCC
much
on the joystick port.
There's 5 volts on the joystick port. So why not put a voltage doubler on that 5 volts? To
So
get
how
you like
much
9?
How much current does the light gun draw?
That's the piece I'm not entirely sure, which is why I didn't try that option.
Shoot.
For my first design, I wanted to try something that I was pretty sure I could get working, right?
Right,
But
'cause
it might be possible. I just don't know how much voltage or current draw I'm going to need to be able to pull it from that port. I'm not sure.
Because you can pump 5 volts up to 9, but you aren't going to get a whole lot of current.
Yeah.
Interesting. That'd be a fun thing to look at.
What chips are on that board? I mean, just 74 series Logics?
I believe yes.
You got to power the light gun, though. That's the issue.
Yeah.
That's true too. Yeah.
The light gun is the light gun is just an optical sensor.
Now, David, you talked all about building this thing and never once mentioned smoke.
He's in a concrete bunker. There's no problem.
That's right. I'm working out of my basement here, the man cave. I just got all cement walls. I didn't even burn any hair building this thing. I pulled some out trying to get it working along the way, but I didn't burn anything.
You didn't burn anything. That's why it didn't work the first time.
Must be. Yeah, you have to make the sacrifice to the soldering guys, burning a few things first. I did discover one other thing, and that is that Cat5 cable is not fun to solder. So I threw that plan out. I had like the jackets on the individual conductors inside the Cat5 cable just melting all over the place. So I ended up tossing that, and I'm using Cat3 cable now. The same stuff I used for my serial no modem cables, and that works so much nicer. It's really nice to work with, actually. Get nice, easy solder joints onto the board with that.
Are you using stranded?
This is, I think, solid core, actually. I just picked up what I could get at a little bit at Home Depot, and I think it's solid core, actually.
Oof.
So you've gotten knowledge from building this. Are you like looking forward to like, Gimme X in a few months?
It'd be nice to try using Gimme X. Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely had my eye on that project for a while. I'm nowhere near ready to work on anything like that. That's for sure. I've learned a lot through this project, and I've learned that I have a lot still to learn. So, yeah, I'm not a hardware expert by any means. I knew enough to learn how to design a PCB and use someone's schematic that already worked, right? So, I'm not pretending to know more than I do or anything like that. But I'm definitely, looking forward to trying some new challenges as well and continue my learning process.
There's one other question I would have is, as you start building projects and stuff, are you going to have any kind of inclination to name your products after any particular countries? Need I say any more?
I know exactly where you're going with that question. I have not thought about that very much yet.
Maple syrup.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, the part of Canada I'm from isn't super into maple syrup. We can kind of make it from Manitoba maples, and I know a few people who do. But yeah, we'll see.
How's your poutine?
Maybe poutine, or I do have these labels I printed on my items I was selling at CoCo Fest at my table. I might get in trouble with that name. I don't know, but it's just a little bit of a fun play on the Radio Shack name from back in the day. My friend Perry, who might be watching right now, friend since high school, he came up with the name actually. So shout out to him on that.
Got a comment from David Lord in the chat. He says, "Solid will break over time. Stranded is the way to go."
Yeah, so maybe I need to do something else. I'll have to get into that.
That's what I tried to say.
I was just really glad that I got some that actually I could solder onto the board without making a mess. So
yeah, if you're going to be using like flexible cables, stranded is a much better choice because stranded will break, but because there's so many strands in it, it's not that big of an issue because it's like constantly. But with a single core wire being flexed, it'll eventually break, and then one single break, you've got no connection.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a paper clip. It gets a soft spot, and then that's where it bends every time after that until it breaks. Where flexible wire, there's soft spots, but they're all up and down the wire. It never bends in the same place any one time.
Yeah. Then you'll be playing P-51 Mustang on your not work.
Why am I losing?
Now, you said at first you had bodge wires, to fix things from your circuit board, but now you've ordered a new batch of boards that have that all fixed.
I haven't done that yet. I just put the bodge wires in just a few days ago, literally. So I haven't done the new boards yet. I have other stuff on them I want to fix as well. Stuff I learned along the way. Like I used Easy ADA that has, people from the community can supply or submit components that you just grab and use. And I made the mistake of trusting that their components would actually, be correct, and they're not.
Right.
So I've got a crystal oscillator where the pads are made for a surface mount, and I've got through-hole crystal oscillators I want to put on, which I just bent the legs and soldered them onto the pads anyway on these ones, and it works. But my next board, I want to actually have the proper size pads with the holes going through and things like that. So there's a couple things like that I want to fix up, just to make it so it's it's more correct and it's easier for people to build if they're going to build their own as well.
Well, when you open up the CoCo 1 or even sometimes CoCo 2, you see bodge wires in there.
Right.
So
Tandy did it.
Aren't you kind of, yeah, exactly.
It's more authentic to keep them, eh?
That's right.
I hid my bodge wires under the board, so maybe I shouldn't have done that either. I should have put them out in the open on the top. I don't know.
Now, I'm curious, are you at all interested in actually programming for it, like maybe writing a game or something based on Tim's drivers?
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in that. I don't know if I'll get that far, but I would love to figure something out with that. Even if I just kind of made a little target practice kind of game using, some of the code in Tim's program, and he's given me his blessing to try that already. So I'll probably try something just really simple like that to start out with.
Because one thing I'm curious, I never asked Tim, is if this will work on a CoCo 1 and 2, because that's one platform that never got any of these phase games.
That's exactly what I've been experimenting with a little bit. Just yesterday, I was trying to change his code a little bit. I didn't get super far. I got the basic code running because the basic code is using the button command, which was erroring out right away. So
yeah, that's just a peak 65280, I think, to do the
code. So I was switching it to use the peak, and I think there's a bit mask involved as well, if I recall correctly.
Depending on which joystick you're trying to read the button from.
Yeah, so I was trying to do that, and that was working, but I think there's something in the machine language routine that it's calling that the CoCo 1 doesn't like, which is what I was testing.
Yeah,
so
I'm trying to remember his explanation. I think it's based on a VSync. You have to white the screen out, like fill it with white, and then immediately flip it back, and you have to try to register the change in color.
And
so
I haven't know what method he's trying to do for that at all.
If he's using a gimme timer interrupt or something, obviously that gimme isn't in the CoCo 1 too, but there is VSync in there, so you should still be able to do it, I would think.
Yeah, I think in theory it should be possible. Like all the signals that we need on the joystick port and the serial port, they're all there. So I think it's possible, but I don't know for sure yet.
Can you guys explain why the gun won't work on a LCD screen? I mean, you're getting the same signal thing. What's the difference? Do you know? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah,
An
it's the
LCD.
reason why it's not. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say a CRT only illuminates one dot at a time.
Yeah.
An LCD illuminates the entire frame at once. That's why frame rate is so important on LCDs, because you will see it's 30 frames, blink, blink, blink. Where CRT is a phosphor that glows and kind of fades, but it's one dot at a time. So you can tell where you're pointed by, is that dot lit? Well, I push the trigger. Well, that's where I'm pointed.
It's not you can't emulate it and make it work.
No, because the gun can't see where you're pointing. All it can tell is the dot lit right now. If the dot's lit right now, and that's where the target is, then that's where you're pointed. It doesn't matter where the gun's really pointed. It's just you hit the trigger when the dot was lit as it was going over where the target is.
Rod, there's a really cool video where someone has used a super high-speed camera to slow down and show someone playing Mario Brothers on a CRT to the point where you can see each pixel of Mario's mustache being drawn individually.
Because it gets lit up really bright and slowly fades.
If I can find the link to that video,
that would be cool.
It's a really great illustration of the difference between the two video technologies.
This was really interesting because in the Atari 2600, the entire video screen was one line. That was it.
That's
you
right.
You were chasing the dot.
One line at a time.
Would that work on a Vectrex?
No.
Yes, there is a Vectrex light gun. The difference is in the way that the raster scan works. But yeah, let me find that Mario mustache video that really shows the LED screens versus CRT.
I always wondered about that because back in the day we all had the duck hunt, set up and it worked. And then I thought, why can't, if I hook that up to, no, it won't work, will it?
No.
None.
Yeah. By the time Duck Hunt came around, they actually had to put stuff in there because in the earlier systems, you'd be able to point the light gun at a light, like just like a table lamp or overhead lamp, and shoot that, and it would register as a hit. But with Duck Hunt, basically what they did was when you pull that trigger, it has to read once, and it has to be dark, and it has to read a second time, and then it has to be light in order for it to register a hit.
Makes sense.
I don't think that the Nintendo Zapper and the Sega Master System can work exactly the same. I think they're slightly different, but there's people on here probably know more than I do about the differences there too.
Yeah, they basically work the same.
I thought there was a difference in how they function, but
so could you theoretically take because a Nintendo gun's probably a bit more common than a Sega Master System gun.
Yeah,
could you interface one of those?
Sure. I mean, you might not need to change the stuff inside it a little bit, but basically all it is a photoreceptor inside, and that's it. It's like some will have like a board that will help control it, but other than that, all a light gun is just a photoreceptor, the same as like a light pen. Same thing. It works this similar way. I do know that on some light guns, when you pull the trigger, some of them will make contact, others will just break contact. So it's the same as pushing a button or just letting go of the button for a second. But for the most part, the actual light photoreceptors is the same. It just depends on how that specific photoreceptor needs its signal coming out, like whether it requires a 5-volt signal going in or a 2-volt or whatever, because they're not all the same.
Okay.
Some of them might need a current limiting resistor, sort of like an LED. Some might not.
Now, I got a couple questions from the chat here. This will be for any of you hardware gurus out there. So the first one from David Lord. He said he doesn't believe the light gun. I don't know what he said here. You can write code for an LCD, but it would work differently. So I'm not sure how that would work, given the fact you're waiting for phosphor to fade. Do you have to fade the LED color, drop it back from white to a light gray and kind of fake being phosphor? How would you do that?
You'd probably just simulate the scans on the screen, where you just have a single dot that went across all the positions on the screen, and then when you read a hit in the gun, then you'd know where it was on that screen.
And then Perry Dueck asks, how about an Atari XE light gun compared to the Sega and Nintendo guns? Would that also work?
Same, yes. The Atari XE gun there's modifications to the XE gun modifications to the Sega gun to use on the Atari 8-bit. From what I understand, it's just a different pin, and I think the switch might be different.
So, David, I got an idea for a name for your product. Maybe you've already thought of it, but it'd be the Kroeker Quaker.
We'll see.
So David Lord has explained himself in chat. He just wants to do the timing in the computer. So from the
tied to the vertical.
Yeah, vertical, horizontal blanking, and you time it yourself, and when was the button pushed in comparison to that timing, which could technically be done, but man,
that would be that'd be sort of like sending and receiving bit bang serial data at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be pretty CPU intensive to trigger that. Well, I mean, if you set up the programmable timer and you set it for, say, the H sync speed, actually, no, you need faster than that because you got to do the pixels going across too.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be pretty CPU intensive.
Yeah, I mean, getting the line that you're on is not that hard. It's getting where on the line that you're at. That's the hard part.
Those delayed phosphors in the CRT were sort of a secret CRT memory we were using right up until 20 years ago. Remember CRT memory?
What you guys have said was, at first you said it wasn't possible, and then as we talked more, it became possible, but it takes a lot.
You probably need an external third-party hardware to keep up, and then
yeah,
send something to the CoCo to read.
It's not possible on the CoCo.
Yeah, because on a horizontal line, even at double speed, you got what 117 cycles, CPU cycles, or something like that, and you've got 600 up to 640 pixels across. You got to try to register. You don't have enough time to even do a single byte instruction command that takes one cycle. So,
Even with the double speed poke.
that's with the double speed poke.
Oh,
it's worse on a CoCo 1 or 2 speed.
There.
Ooh.
You get 57 and a half cycles to do it on a.
Yeah, you could probably do something that's close, but you'd probably be the equivalent of just whipping your gun out and just pointing at the gun at the TV and just making pot shots.
But
Yeah, I mean, if you designed a game that only required vertical, like if you just had to aim up and down to hit some general target that's the width of the screen, you could probably do that.
But VCC is 75 megahertz.
Well, VCC I guess doesn't, but I think MAME even emulates the gun interface already, doesn't it? I think Tim added that in. That's why he did that whole project on.
Oh yeah,
Because now you got time to do that kind of stuff. Eh?
so you can get David's product emulated.
Yeah, it basically just
David.
uses the mouse cursor. It's not quite as much fun as actually having the gun.
Yeah, nowhere near fun, I'd say.
You just move a mouse cursor. It's like playing, like Missile Command with a mouse.
Yeah,
I have no idea what
Boring.
would be in there.
Right?
Yeah,
I do have an idea though that involves Nitrous 9, Curtis, that I have to throw out there. I know it's a silly kind of thing that only nerds would be interested in, but wouldn't it be kind of neat if you had multi-view up on your screen and you could point with your Lycan at the icon you wanted to start up and just pull the trigger?
Nick's trash can. I like that idea.
Yeah, and then you take your Joey controller switcher and flip the switch to switch to your joystick when you're ready to start up King's Quest. It's perfect. You got multiple products being tied into it, and
David Ladd should be here.
It's a good thing David's not here. He would explode.
Yeah, he'd be going like, I can seek the track on my floppy drive by aiming at this part of the screen, and
yeah, run the whole thing from a floppy, and he would be in heaven.
We'd have to hook up a
applications are in.
Yeah, I guess the only real limiting factor though is the fact that it does not work with LCD TV. So if you have the newer, interfaces, etc., that you're kind of SOL. You'd have to find an old tube based.
I got another question. My TV in living room is, where the whole screen is a tube. What do you call it?
They're all like that.
No, it's not the newest technology. It's the older stuff where the actual screen is one big tube. What do they call that?
The backlight is it
cathode ray tube?
Oh, plasma.
Plasma.
Something.
Yeah. So
Plasma,
would it work on a plasma screen?
No.
No.
Nope. That
Same
works the
problem.
same as LCD.
Is it really?
Yep.
And this is why no one talked about frame rate and frames per second in the old days, because it didn't come up. A CRT doesn't have frames per second.
Oh.
But now with the CRT starts flipping out very defined frames, then now you need 120 frames per second to look smooth, because it's too digital now. And you just can't get that smooth look that a CRT always had. And now you've got to have like I say, 120 frame.
Yeah, you have to have faster refresh to kind of simulate it as best you can.
So to even make it look good to the human eye.
So basically, tube TVs have enough smear or whatever
to look good,
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, once you find out what you think the price will be and stuff, and you get the files on, I really hope you can eliminate the 9-volt battery, because that was my one pain point with it on the actual.
Well, they'll have the power jack on it, so all it is a matter of trying to find an adapter that'll put the voltages out to the board. And I'll do a bit more experimenting. I dropped by Value Village to pick up one just a couple days ago. If I get one just for like $4 or something, and I kind of did the same thing as what I already had. So
find something that weighs nothing. It must not have a transformer in it. It must feel like a cheap plastic disposable piece of crap that says 9 volts. And then you'll get 9 volts out of it.
So a drill battery is out of the question.
Right.
Would something, Rick, like if I found like a lower voltage supply, is there any chance that would work even or no?
then
Like
you're
a 5-volt
guessing
one?
because the older unregulated supplies, it all depended on how much load you put on the supply as to what voltage you got out. But the newer switching supplies, you will always get the right voltage out of it. Now, there's a rub that you can't ground that to an earth ground. We can exchange emails. It's complicated, but
does it have a voltage regulator inside of it?
Yes, there is a voltage regulator inside of it. Yeah, it'll bring the 9 volts that comes in. It'll bring that down to 5 to go to the chips.
And it doesn't use anything. It doesn't do anything with that 9 volts except go to the voltage regulator.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Then any power supply that you find that's 6 volts to
It's
about
more.
10 volts to 10 volts should work fine.
That's kind of what I was hoping for. The ones I have
right.
are rated at 9, but when I put a multimeter on them, they're putting out like 15 to 19 volts. So
Yeah,
they're
but
putting out a
that's
lot more
what-
than no voltage.
Yeah, but they're not regulated.
Yeah,
But you
they're
have
not
a
regulated.
regulator yourself. So all you've
Yeah.
got to do is stay under the 25 volt headroom of a 5-volt regulator, and you're good.
I thought these should work because it was, like I say, 15 volts and I think 19 volts is what they were putting out, and they're rated at 9. But I think I got to find something a little lower. At least I'll try. But yeah, I'm definitely open to some ideas. I don't really want to have to use a 9-volt battery either. So
The other thing you can do is just hook up the 5-volt rail just straight to the 5-volt on your CoCo and see how it works.
yeah. What's the worst that would happen if I did that? I'm guessing it just wouldn't run, but
Yeah, it would just you just check the 5-volt rail on your CoCo and see if it's low,
right.
like much lower, because it should be able. I mean, although it's quote unquote rated for 50 milliamps, it may be able to handle more. It should. There's no reason it shouldn't be able to handle 100 to 150 milliamps, and there's no way that board is going to use that much.
What I wonder about then, if it's actually possible, is why didn't they build the original that way then? Because it would have been so much easier.
Probably because they are a business that has to deal with the repercussions of companies. And if something happened to someone's CoCo and they say, well, your product destroyed my CoCo, even though they had a serial switch on there, a Y cable with a RS-232 pack and a disk drive in there. And it's like they can say, well, you didn't follow specs, so it's your fault. And there's nothing they can do about that. So, I mean, you could also just put an ammeter on there and see what kind of voltage it actually does pull. I mean,
I would mention Franklin Harris of Retro Rewind mentions, why not eliminate the 7905 as the board only uses 5 volts and go with a 5-volt supply? I'm not a hardware guy. I don't understand what that means, but does that make any sense to you guys?
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, I thought too of just taking a USB cable, that you plug into any kind of 5-volt USB power supply and plugging that straight in. And I could have done that. Probably the biggest reason I did was because this is my first project and I'm trying to make sure I don't go too far off the original design.
Yeah,
I wanted it
exactly.
to work. But it's definitely should be possible. And that would simplify the board again too. You just don't need the voltage regulator at all.
Yeah, because nowadays a 5 volts power source is pretty much available anywhere, whereas back then it wasn't as common of a power supply.
Right, they're so common, devices don't even put them in anymore because you probably got 20.
Exactly. And I'm planning to put the board design out there too. So if anyone wanted to make changes to it and do their own thing, you'd certainly be able to do that. So
now, would you be okay with somebody who wanted to sell it as a fully made product based on that design, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't have any.
As you said, it kind of sounds like you're not too keen on making a bunch of these fully soldered up and ready to go.
I'd make a few, but I'm not looking to make 100. No, I have no idea how many people are going to want them. Like, how many people still have CRTs, right?
I've got several, but there's one here. I got my neck multisync 2 over here.
I would like to put that inside the light gun and just make a
build it all
self-contained.
I've got 5 within 5 feet of me. No, I've got 9 within 5 feet of me.
I'm one of the weird guys that had CRTs too, but there's a lot of people that don't already. So
How many work?
All of them except one.
You're in the right neighborhood for people with CRTs that still work. That's for sure.
Alan Murphy, who's on our panel, but in the chat, he says, sign me up for a light gun and adapter, CRT right behind me. So he's ready to go. So
awesome.
And if you can make one that doesn't require a 9-volt battery, I would buy one.
Well, these are already, if you find the right adapter, I'm pretty sure you'd be fine. Like I have one that works with a 9-volt adapter already. It's just my other, somehow the voltage regulators aren't all, like some are more sensitive than others, is what I think. I mean, again, maybe someone like Rick or Sloopy knows why that is again.
I'm guessing you aren't getting enough current out of your supplies. The ones with the really high idle voltage aren't delivering enough current. And you've got one that doesn't quite need as much as the others and it's squeaking by. Try a bigger adapter. Because you have a 25-volt headroom, I think, under that regulator. So as long as your wall wart doesn't make more than 25 volts, it'll be 5 volts coming out of the adapter.
What I'm probably going to end up doing is taking my boards right to Value Village with my multimeter and start plugging the thing in right there. Yeah.
There you go.
Until they kick me out, I'll just try right there.
Yeah, you're using a 7805 voltage regulator?
I'd have to look up what it is. I think it's something smaller. Just give me a second, I'll find out. I got the part number in here. 2 moments.
3 moments.
And for those interested in this project, he's got some photos and stuff up on in the Discord, and I'll actually be showing on the news too. I'm really interested to see, like, one, if you can eliminate the 9-volt battery and have something that just plugs in and you don't have to keep buying batteries. And then also if you can get the software working, maybe even try it on a CoCo 1 and 2 and see if we can actually get some new games for it for the first time in
that would be fun, yes.
30 some odd years.
Yeah, I have to pick a game in September, so if you have your game ready by then.
There you go.
No pressure.
Yeah, that'll juice your sales. You have to get it for the Game On Challenge.
Then maybe I won't be shot for picking another Nick Morente's game.
Nick, would you be interested in supporting
before September? Don't worry.
Nick, would you be interested in supporting a game for the light gun if they get it working fairly well and doesn't require batteries?
Yeah.
Oh, he's sleeping again.
No, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to do breakfast at the same time.
Yeah. Did you find the voltage regulator?
I did. Yeah, we'll talk about that for a second. Give Nick a chance to finish his mouthful there. The voltage regulator that I use is 78L05 Motorola.
A 78. Yeah, that's a 7805. Basically your power supply that's giving like 10, 12 volts. You should be able to plug that in because a 7805 is capable of handling between 20 and 30 volts maximum.
Yeah.
I would only.
That's why I was really surprised my other ones didn't work. But.
Yeah.
Well, without a heat,
I would let it only run for a minute or two because when you're putting that much voltage in it, it's going to produce a lot more heat. That's why they're doing 9 volts, but that'll at least test it to see if the voltage will come down once it's actually connected to something.
Right.
Because that's the thing. Your little supply is putting out 20 volts at no load. It may only putting out 4 volts under any reasonable load. It may be a piece of crap. There were a whole lot of bad wall warts back in the day.
Yeah, and Frank's saying anything higher than 12 volts on the 7905, he says, but 7805, put a heat sink on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a typo. A 7905 is negative 5 volts.
And then you'll need a fan.
I'm looking forward to that because I mean that's something I've told people a lot about the light gun. I've even brought it down to the fest a few times. Mine, I think Henry Reifeld brought his down last year or even before something, or just before COVID maybe. But it's something that not a lot of people have. I mean the disc images are now available for both games, and Dave Dyes has said go ahead and copy them. There's no problems there. But people have to have the Sega Master light gun itself, and then they have to have this interface, which is fairly rare to begin with as well. And the Sega Master light gun, it's not the most common light gun you can find. So it's the fact that you're actually getting the light guns and making the boards and the whole package there means that you can get a one-stop shop and you're ready to go and try these games that a lot of people have never tried.
And I don't have a line on a ton of light guns. I've got a lot of 6 of them coming to me, and I want to keep one of those because I do also have a Sega Master System, and there's a game on there called Gangster Town that uses 2 light guns. So you have 2-player mode, 2 at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely want to be able to try that out. So I'm going to keep 2 light guns, the one I have, plus one from that lot. But I'll have 5 available from that lot once I get them working. Hopefully, I can get them all working. I don't think it's going to be hard.
Yeah, David, contact me on Discord. We can work something out so we can get it working for you. I have a Sega Master System light gun, so I don't need one of them yet.
Now, Sloopy, get just probably the last question I'll ask on this so we can get on with the rest of the show here, so we don't have another 5-hour show. What is there some sort of hardware adapter, something you could do to use some of the more common available ones like Nintendo, etc., that would then work with this interface?
I'd have to look at the details on the Nintendo one, which would probably be the most common. I know that it's been adapted to use on the Atari, and so it should be able to be adapted to be used on this, because I know that like the Sega Genesis light gun, it's a very simple modification to use it on the Atari. I think it's just a pinout change and a change in the switch, but I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. I'd have to figure out how it actually works, because I'm not used to this stuff where you have like all these additional electronics to make it work, because on the Atari 8-bit, it goes straight into the video chip, and the video chip just has a register that tells you which pixel on the screen you're pointing to. You don't have to do any kind of translation or anything. So, but yeah, it should be a simple matter to adjust a Nintendo light gun for it. I do have a couple of them actually sitting around here, so that would be a nice thing to try out too.
Yeah, because I mean, the one thing that might hinder this is the fact that the Sega Master ones are a bit more rare to find, and if you can use a common one like a Nintendo or even the Genesis or something like that, and some little adapter thing or maybe a different version of the board or something, that you can then bundle it with one of those, which you can pick up on eBay fairly easily. That would be nice.
The other day I was surfing on the internet, and if you use a 12-volt car battery, they have these new bands that go across, and you hook both ends up to the terminals and you can carry it. Have you seen that? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
I don't.
Strap. It goes from the positive to the negative, and you can carry it. You haven't seen that, huh? No.
Just make one out of copper or something. Yeah.
They turn red.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dave, for coming on and talking about the project. I'm really curious if you can make that work on a CoCo 1 and 2. That'd be really cool, because we've never had a light gun of any sort. We've had light pens on the CoCo 1 and 2. That's as far as I know.
Neutroid for the gun.
There you go.
So I can shoot the game and put it out of its misery. I like that idea, Nick. Actually, Nick, did you hear our earlier question too? We were asking if he can get this working, especially if you can get it working with like Nintendo guns or something that's a lot more common. Would you be interested in doing a game that actually requires a gun?
Not really. No. I never found light gun games very exciting.
Well, yeah, of course you think Neutroid's exciting, so that doesn't, that kind of explains.
Let me tell you why you're wrong.
Asparagus.
Yeah,
horses for courses.
You're asking somebody that designed the garbage can, and
yeah, which I do want to shoot, so that actually makes sense. I think Mark, if you're around there, maybe we should do a commercial break, and then I'll just start slamming into the news. We'll just do Game On news first, then straight into the regular news.
Commercial break would be great.
Sounds good.
Welcome to everybody's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord?
Devo says, it's Clive. Thanks for welcoming me. Although I don't own a CoCo, I enjoy dabbling with some of its cousins, an MC10, Tano Dragon and TRS-84P. Current interests are 6803 assembly and OS 9. Looking forward to learning from this group. Frodo Jedi says, hello everyone. My name is Frodo Jedi, or Frank in real life. I collect a wide range of vintage computing. Mostly Apple and Macintosh computers. Hope you won't hold that against me. I purchased my first TRS-80 and am excited about being able to explore the CoCo computer scene and learn as much as I can. The previous bios were edited for time. Thanks to Boysen, Glenside Computer Club, Kev Hole, Nightbeard, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Tandy Color Computer 3, and the CoCo Nation patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.thecoconation.com. I wonder, did Fletcher ever stop to think that JT just wanted to spend a little more time with her in the office? But no, she took her TRS-80 Model 100 and was gone.
Because cocoing is better together.
Hi, I'm John.
And I'm Aaron of the CoCo Show.
And you're watching or listening to the CoCo Nation, the live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer and its cousins.
All hail the CoCo Nation.
In a world where RGB produces black and white video, one cable can make a difference. Switcheroo. CoCo3ScartCable.com.
G'day from the land down under, where toilets flush backwards and thongs are a respectable form of casual footwear. I am Nick Marentes and I have been developing games for the CoCo for over 35 years. Welcome to the CoCo Nation, the interactive live video talk show for all enthusiasts of the CoCo family of computers.
Hi, I'm L. Curtis Boyle.
I'm Ken Waters of Canadian Retro Things.
And you're watching the CoCo Nation Show.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite in the forest of doom.
For the Tandy Color Computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017, if you dare.
When you want the latest in TRS-80, Tandy, Dragon, MC-10, and all of their hardware cousins, no matter what it takes, or where news breaks, from around the world to your nation. The CoCo Nation News with L. Curtis Boyle.
Yeah, that news intro kind of explains exactly why I don't solder anymore. Okay, I'm assuming you're seeing this nice P-Mode 3 screen here.
Yep. No, we have. I see a bunch of Patreons. And thank you to all those Patreons.
Yep. Okay, so we got a couple of updates from CoCo Town on YouTube. So we did a quick video here that shows what he thinks is the best opening sequence in a CoCo Donkey Kong clone game. And I won't play the whole thing. It's only a minute and a half, but basically he picks Donkey Monkey because it actually was original. So the standard Donkey Kong course has the, gorilla grabs the girl, wanders up the ladders, and then stamps and breaks all the girders so they kind of slant. And Donkey King doesn't have an intro really, it just has the, how high can you climb type thing. But Donkey Monkey has the animation of the gorilla going up the stairs with the girl, but then he goes and plays a little piano piece. And I have always thought that was cute. And I think even when we played Donkey Monkey recently on the Game On Challenge, I think that was something that everybody thought was kind of fun. So you can check out that if you want to see a video of that if you've never played Donkey Monkey. And then he did a two-part here on how to modify Donkey King to give 255 lives. So not quite infinite, but good enough for most people. And it's a two-part. So the first part he goes here, it's about 7.5 minutes long, and basically he goes through how he did it back when he was a kid. It was kind of the brute force method, the same as I did. You just run through with peaks going from the start of the code to the end of the code, and you look for stuff like a load A with 3, if it's defaults to 3 men, or load B with 3 or whatever. And most of the time that would work because that's how most people would program the game. And once you find the right load A with 3, you just poke that 3 with 255 and voila. So the first video kind of covers that. And then the second video, which is much longer, it's over half an hour long. This actually goes through details of like how disk files are saved with the different blocks, etc. to because you can have non-contiguous code being loaded, and goes through using disassembly, using a disassembler tool to figure out the actual code for Donkey King itself, to actually like narrow it down. Because when you do the peak method looking for the load A with 3, you might find dozens of them. You'd have to just keep trying them all until something works, or something crashes instead. So pretty good deep dive here, and he goes through a little bit of the Donkey King code. It's not the original source from Chris, but it's code that he's kind of generated his own comments and labels for later on. Which actually gets to be pretty interesting with some of the stuff he's going through here. So I would say the second one in particular, if you're worried or are interested in the deep dive into some of the Donkey King code, it's actually quite interesting. So kudos to him on that one. And that one actually just brought out late last night, so I haven't even finished watching this video myself yet. Next up, we have Jim Gary has a couple of game updates. So the first one here is Quest 1, ported from the Model 1.3 original by Brian Reynolds, which is kind of an RPG style game. As you can see here, you're rolling your character, etc., getting your equipment, etc., that you need for the game itself. And then it kind of goes into a top view style thing. It almost reminds me of Seamus, kind of the way it's laid out. And you wander around and get treasures and beat up monsters, etc. So that's a pretty cool game. The second one he did is called Gambler, originally by Randy Hawkins in 1982. And this was originally from Softside magazine, the January 1982 issue. This was originally a Model 1 and 3 game as well. But basically, this is more like, it's almost like a random number generator. You just, buy lottery tickets, did you win, type thing. So it's a much simpler game. I much prefer the first one myself. Hot on the heels of last week when we covered that Paris Surratt had released another pack of AGD converted games for the Super Sprite FM Plus board sold by Dragon Plus Electronics, which basically adds the MSX sprite hardware and the sound hardware to a CoCo 1, 2, or Dragon. I think it even works on the 3, though I'm not positive off the top of my head. But he's released another pack with another 4 games added. So he's got Captain Rescue, The Escape, Captain Rescue Reprisal, Code 112, and Cybermania. So that's basically, I think he did 8 games last week. So that's 12 new games for this board. So I have to say, at all the third-party enhancement boards, if you're looking for the one that seems to have the most software available that uses the new features, the new sound and music and multicolored sprites and stuff here, this definitely seems to be the one that seems to be getting out the gate here with a lot of stuff. So there's some screenshots here. I'm just kind of scrolling through these 4 new games. And once again, the AGD engine is basically designed for platformers. So in most cases, that's what you'll see. But you can see they're definitely very colorful, 16 color screens and stuff here. So it almost looks like a CoCo 3 style game. And then because he's released 2 of these packs so rapid fire, he's actually updated the big pack. So the big pack is basically his compilation. He does this with the regular AGD games as well that don't require the Super Sprite FM Plus board. But basically, he's compiled everything that he's made for that board, and he's made one zip file. You can download it, and you get all the games in one shot. So you don't have to keep picking and choosing and adding stuff as it releases. So if you're new to it, you just get your Super Sprite FM Plus. You can get everything up to date in one shot, one zip file. And he's got both Dragon and the CoCo versions here as well. He's even included a zip of screenshots. So if you want to see, or set up something for yourself there, where you can see what all the games look like to see which one you want to try playing. And I'm trying to remember last week, I think he was already over 50 games. So he's probably getting close to 60 games now that support the Super Sprite FM Plus, which is really cool. Those are available for download. If you go into the World of Dragon archive forums, there's an upload section. And anything that they've done with the AGD stuff, all the downloads are in there in that particular group of messages. And you just pop in there and download them as they come out. Next up, David Mitchell, who's been giving Gary a real run for his money lately here about doing MC10 stuff, has got a couple new MC10 games as well. As you can see in the title screen, this one's called Explosion, originally by Hal Renko and Sam Edwards. And this is originally from a book called Terrific Games for Your Tandy Color. So this originally was a CoCo game, now converted to the MC10. And I'll play a little clip of this one. That's word a bit here. So it's kind of a strategy game here where you're playing against the computer. I don't know too much about the game itself, but it's basically a text game with some numbers. I mean, it's almost laid out like tic-tac-toe in this point. And then he's got the GitHub here where you can actually go download. He's got all of the stuff. He's done Dragon stuff, CoCo stuff, and MC10 stuff. So if you go to his GitHub, he's got the source code for all of this stuff on there and README files that kind of explain some of them. So any of the stuff we covered recently from him and in the future stuff, you can just, bookmark his GitHub, and he's uploading stuff there pretty well every week at this point. The other one he did here is called Lunar Lander. And this was originally for the Dragon 32 by Dr. Tim Langdell in a book called 35 Programs for the Dragon 32. Now, this one, he actually complained in the comments and on the description that it flickers like mad because basically the game loop draws the ship and the terrain and then immediately blacks it all out, does the calculations as to what's, where things have to move, and then redraws it and then immediately blanks it out again. So the game loop is kind of favoring the blank screen instead of the actual graphics on the screen, so it doesn't play as well as it could. I think a bit of a rewrite would probably solve a lot of this, but you can see here, I don't know how well this is coming through on the stream here, but it's flickering like mad, and it's half the time if you took a look, it looks like it's basically blank.
Like a ZX80.
Yeah, kind of. Except that you could definitely fix on the Dragon CoCo or the MC10 just by changing the way the game loop structure works. So, but I'm glad he's doing all these conversions here. The next one here, this is actually for Nick. A page called, and I don't know if it's pronounced around Geopapas, actually did a 1.5-minute video showing Nick's 4K Space Invaders. It only requires color basic, because obviously with 4K you couldn't run extended basic because the default P-Clear4 would already overfill memory. Now, I remember, Nick, this was originally meant for a 4K programming contest. I think Alan Huffman was sponsoring, but that never actually happened. Did it?
No,
I know there was some submissions, but I don't think. Yeah, I know there's one or two people that did do entries, but I don't think Alan ever picked one. So
no, he didn't. So that was my entry, and I just made it a free download game.
So you lost by default.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just all written in color basic, no machine language.
Yeah, and fits in 4K, which is pretty. And was it keyboard or joystick driven? I can't remember.
Keyboard.
Okay.
Keyboard, yeah.
Wicked sound too.
Yeah.
Sound. That's wicked.
Not bad for 4K though, I have to say. That was better than the Space Invaders I attempted when I first got my CoCo back in 89.
Right.
And the invaders move like the original in that they don't all move at once. They're done row by row.
Yeah, they're kind of staggered.
That ripple effect, which is what the original arcade did as well. So,
yeah. Now this would have been a good entry for that contest. I know there's now like 1-liner, 10-liner, etc. Limits of the line length of each line. I don't know if this would qualify. I've never seen the source for this one. I've never bothered to look, but you should maybe re-enter it in one of these other ones if it qualifies within the stipulations they have for some of these smaller programming things here. Because it's a good enough game, I would say. It'd probably compete well with other platforms.
It was the first time I ever did something in color basic. Gee, there's not much you can do in color basic.
Not in 4K, especially. Because basically, I think once basic 4K. Boots, you got what, 2,300 bytes free?
Yeah, no, you don't even get the full 4K.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of neat to have that one just pop up out of nowhere from somebody I've never heard of. And then he did a second video, which is Astral Storm for the Dragon 32 and the 64. And basically, I'm my comment here in my own notes is I consider this a reverse of what I consider to be normal, because this is a Dragon conversion from a Jim Gary MC10 game. So Jim is normally famous for taking stuff from other platforms, Dragon, CoCo, VZ200s, Sinclair, ZX Spectrums, whatever else, and converting it to the MC10. This went the other direction. It took one that Jim wrote, and he's converted it to the Dragon from the MC10 version. So Not something you normally see go that direction. Even supports double speed if you have one that supports. I think all the dragons support double speed, didn't they? And I think all the CoCos from the E board on pretty well did. Some of the C's and D's didn't, but you could fix
not
that.
double speed. The
the ROM speed up.
Yeah.
Well,
so
not
it's
full
only-
double speed. No, that's
No.
but that still gave you a good 30 to 40% speed increase in basic programs. So it's still
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. As you can see, it's basically you're trying to steer your arrow from the right hand side through this asteroid field without hitting stuff. And you can tell by the negative score here, he's not doing too well in the demo.
No.
But it's I like the fact that he actually, instead of just putting like black blocks or black circles as asteroids, he actually tried to draw some detail on them. I thought that was quite nice. Next up, Say Retro Programming has done an update on his Tales of Suburbia, because he's been doing that sort of Ultima inspired game more so recently. He's got, like Nick, several game projects on the time, and when he gets flustered with one or hits a bug that he can't solve, he just switches back to a different one, same as Nick, and I do that too, I'll be totally honest. I won't play the video because it's 14 minutes long, but he kind of goes through some of the play and some of the design of how he's doing things, where he switches to a text screen if you're searching something, for example, to give a description. And you're able to walk around almost 3D-ish, and it's all done in BASIC. There's no fancy stuff here. He doesn't have background masking because it slowed things down a little bit too much, even though BASIC does support it in an indirect way. But it doesn't look too bad. I mean, most of the time people just drew stuff over top anyway if you're writing in BASIC. But because he's using pcopy in the background, it actually looks a lot smoother than some of the other early efforts I remember seeing back in the day.
Do you know if there's a utility for the CoCo 1 and 2 that uses the high res mode for text, but in P mode 3? I mean, I know there's P mode 4 ones, but
there is. There's a few I've seen.
So
they're a bit more limited, obviously, in res because you only get 128 pixels wide.
Yeah, but if you design the fonts right, it should look good. Then you can
it just most of the time you do that with drawstrings and stuff, and he's already using a fair bit of memory for keeping track of all these rooms and all the objects and everything else that you can interact with. So I don't know if he'd have enough memory to fit it in a whole font on top of it.
Yeah, this is P mode 3, isn't it?
I think this is actually P mode 1.
Yeah.
But he's got a second copy of the background on a later page that you can't see.
Right. Yeah.
So when he's instead of trying to redraw everything manually with draw statements and paint and all that stuff, he just p copies it over really fast and then redraws the character over top that. So I can play a little bit of it just to kind of give you an idea.
Now, when the
he's got little
music's
bits of
playing,
music in
I
it too,
can't
but
move the character because of the tier.
Sort of it here.
Have music chip support separate from the BIOS, or so it can't.
You can see the
run
kind of the green box around it. If I was just to keep the speed.
That's the best I could do.
You can do the double puts with not masks and all that kind of stuff, but it definitely does slow things down.
It's says the
So in this case, I think the option of having a fairly decent speed at the fact that you have this little green box following your character around is still probably better than running at half the speed, especially on later levels.
Is he using the speed up poke? I wonder.
I don't think he is. I keep mentioning that to him because I think he wanted to make sure it works on every CoCo. But honestly, as I was mentioning before, I think all Dragons supported, all CoCo 2 supported it.
Yeah,
I think all CoCo 1s from the E board on. So unless you have a very rare C board or one of the old D boards, and even if you do have those, if you go to the old Rainbows from like 82 or Color Computer News from 82, they tell you how to modify the CoCo to fix that so that it does work. So there's no reason you shouldn't be able to use it, I would think. Anyway, if you want a bit of an update on his Tales of Suburbia going through stage 2.
He's progressing quite well.
Yep. And like I said, he's doing multiple games at once too, just like Nick.
Yeah. Well, that's the way you learn.
Yeah, well, it also helps kickstart your brain. Like you're mentioning, like a sleep can sometimes do it where you can spend hours trying to figure out a bug or some stupid routine you can't get working, and then you sleep on it, and then you wake up and like, geez, well, that's how you do it. Why didn't I think of that yesterday? But there's some other times where that doesn't work, and you go, I still don't get it. And then you go do a completely different project, which shifts your brain into a different gear, and then you come back like a couple days or a week later, and then it's obvious. And that sometimes is what I have to do as well.
What's the Electron game there?
That's the clone of Tron from Spectral. This is the Dragon version, obviously.
Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, okay.
So this is the person that keeps renaming his page every year. The only way it's Cuthbert GA on this particular case. So he's done some more updates on Dragon long plays. Now, this is different than he used to do in the old days where he did a quick 1-minute snippet. So he's doing like 5 to 10 minute videos. But he's got the original cassettes, he's got the original cassette artwork, etc. And a lot of these are games from North America that we've seen before, like Mr. Dig was from Computer, or Demon Seed was from Computer Shack / Mitchtron. Robin Hood was a uniquely UK-based game. Invader's Revenge is a Ken Kalish originally from Med Systems, and Electron was really Spectral. So I still like looking at all their artwork, but I also like the fact that he's doing long plays now, so you can actually see like multiple levels, and you can get more feeling of the gameplay than the old quick ones he was doing before. So if you want to check out some of those there, you can kind of play the games. The Dark Pit, like we mentioned last week, that Ken and I went to the Vintage Geek Museum in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we got volunteered to do a video on the electronic book that Tandy sold. And the Dark Pit is actually, if I remember correctly, I think that's one of the games that actually supports the electronic book. You can actually play the game using that. So that's one of the few programs besides educational titles, because this is strictly a game title that actually did support that use of that book. So I may have to pick one up here because I've never tried a game, like a fun game, not just an educational game, with the electronic book. I'd like to see how they use that interface. Like, how would you use that in a game like this? All right, that's the game on news. So let me switch over to the main one, which is a little bit more to it.
Now to go to the bigger pillar.
Pardon me? What was that, Mark?
Oh, just
no, it's the same. It's the same one. It basically covers
same
both.
one. Yeah.
Here's news.
Time for
there we go.
news.
Nick's the official intro sponsor.
News.
Who's that schmuck?
So, Jason, since you're actually on here, this is Chicago CoCo Fest Day 2. So you did a Day 1 that we briefly talked about last week. Anything that really stands out? I'm just going to mute and start playing in the background. People can get kind of a feel for it.
Oh,
is there anything that particularly stood out in Day 2 for you?
Oh, well, on Day 2, I got to have an actual cup of hot cocoa, and I made sure to document that. But seriously, I got to go over, and there's Brian the Music Man. I got to see his setup. Went over and talked to the folks that had the battery operated CoCos with the drill batteries. That was quite interesting.
We still have to get him
that.
and his son onto the show. Does anybody have contact info for him, or is he on Discord? Flutterball. Let me write that down because I think I forgot to write it down last time. Because basically having David on earlier was like the first of the things I'm planning for people that had new products and stuff at CoCo Fest, or something that was very interesting. And Flutterball is one I also want to get on. There's a few others too. So, and that was the wireless CoCos and the battery-driven CoCo, right?
Right. And Brian's playing Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy in MIDI there for me, and I'm trying to
using Jim Brain's version of the MIDI pack.
Right. Yeah, I was, and it was early. I didn't quite recognize the song right away. He had to point it out to me, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Sometimes, yes, Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy. Said it was my theme song, but
I'm just going to try to see if I can find a little bit about the wireless when we play that. There's
it's auction
El Presidente.
Yeah.
You remember roughly where in the video it would be? There's Grant. Get that off the screen.
Yeah, Grant. It's a little. There, I'm getting some cocoa with. Yeah. And I don't know, probably about 3/4 of the way. Oh, there was the winner of the David Ladd lookalike contest.
Yeah, it was too bad that David lost that. But
yeah, he came in second place. Now, there's Mr. Weasler and his cocoa kit in a case.
Was it you that said you were going to put mushrooms in your cocoa?
That was Grant. He said he was going to put mushrooms. I'm like, do you mean marshmallows, Grant? Yeah. He was tired too. He
I guess
put a lot of work into it, but
CP400.
Yeah, some of the Brazilian stuff there, and I said, oh, there's the Brazilian manual. He got the manual for it. All you have to do is learn Portuguese now. There it is. There he is.
Telling me to go outside. So now the problem is solved. So now we can go outside with my
Kid's a natural born salesman. I just about bought stuff from him. I didn't even understand what I was buying.
So this is powered off of a drill battery. Okay. And there's
what do you say?
Okay.
CoCo.com for more details. It's the kit with it. This is the stock edition.
I still like the fact that you can mount all this stuff on there without having to make a single
Okay,
modification to the case.
Absolutely.
It runs Nitro S9 It's
That's the important part. It runs Nitrous 9. So
I know he'd have you right at that point, Curtis. It runs EOU.
Working the crowd, man.
He was even selling. He had some magnets he was selling too.
Did anyone say how long you can go with one of those batteries?
he said up to 6 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
And he said the bigger batteries, you can actually go longer.
And the CoCo 3 on the far end that we're seeing now, that actually he has a wireless video sender on that too. So that one's completely wireless right to the.
You just plug your
monitor
SDC
there.
and you can wander around the room and it'll actually do your typing. It said it will come out on the main screen wirelessly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
That was cool. Yeah, I definitely want to have them on. So now that I know it's Flutterball, because I forgot to write down last time, then I will arrange him. And for the rest of you, because I did not even get a chance to get to half the booths during the entire show because I kept getting peppered with questions and stuff. If any of you know of anything, it can be your own products, it could be somebody else's that you thought was really interesting and fairly new that we haven't seen before. Let me know who those people are, and if you have contact information for them, definitely send me that in email or Discord handle or whatever. I want to try to get them on like maybe 1 or 2 per week, and try to kind of go through and try to highlight some of the products. So there's a reason we had David on to talk about both the null modem cables for P51, et cetera, and then also to talk about the DICOM thing. This would be 1, 2 I'll definitely want to line up and talk to him a bit about it at the show. But if you guys have any other people or your own stuff that you want to kind of plug through and go through for kind of a follow-up at the fest, I'd love to do that too. So just send me messages in Discord.
You think we can get that
this kid?
Yo, the kid's coming on. He's already him and his father are both planning on coming on. Because he also made a commercial too, I think, didn't he?
I think so, yes.
I think it was one putting me into a compromising situation or something, if I remember. Maybe lighting my hair on fire or something, I'm not sure.
We want to see that.
Yeah. But he's the one who was kind of the mastermind behind it. The kid was. So, even young kids want me dead.
Co-host.
He'll be my replacement.
Yeah, there you go.
He's already plugging Nitrous 9 EOU, so he's halfway there.
No, he's contaminated, but anyway.
What if he did EOU and Neutroid? Oh my god!
I think that would disrupt the space-time continuum.
That would be an antimatter explosion at that point, I think. Anyway, I'm going to try to line up 1 or 2 of these. So any of the stuff you guys have yourselves, like Rick, you and Henry, and maybe Deke, I wouldn't mind having you guys on to talk about some of the networking stuff you're fiddling with, which I never got a chance to talk to you guys about. The stuff like that. Henry was doing all kinds of weird stuff from what I saw.
Yeah, we have things.
David and Mark, you guys can come on and talk about some of the PS2 mouse adapter stuff, which I have one now, and I found the missing power supply was in the wrong bag. So I'm actually going to start fiddling with trying to get the drivers fixed for that. I got to find my high-res interface yet, but I know even the regular one's a little bit off, especially the Gimme X. It's totally off, so I got to fix those. But now that I actually have the hardware to do it on, I can actually start working on that. But anything else you guys can think of, just let me know on Discord.
See if we can get that Canadian guy with that wears the Hawaiian shirts. See if we can get him on. I hear he's hard to get a hold of.
I didn't see David Kroeker wearing a Hawaii shirt. So. This, I won't force you guys to watch any of this because I'm playing on it and it sucks. But it's an hour and a half of me half remembering pieces of songs, basically. And then real talented people singing and stuff.
All I can say is whenever I'm laid back, feeling lazy and don't want to practice, I can play this and I'll get up off my butt and go practice.
See, didn't Fred have that horn hooked up to a CoCo?
Nope.
See that's why I made the video, for inspiration in whatever way it may be, right?
An inspiration for everyone to buy earplugs. That would be my guess. But Rick, yeah, definitely we should, at least the 2 of us. I mean, Fred and I did come up with 2 songs that we did try to kind of learn. I think they actually didn't go too badly. I don't know if Jason got those recorded though. I don't think he did.
But
I think it was too early.
I don't know. He was singing Chicago at one point. I don't know.
No, he was playing trumpet on a different Chicago song though. That was the
Pretty
one we
much
started with. Yeah.
Pretty much all the jam footage I have, like 99 point some minuscule amount percent of footage I have from the jam session is in that video. So that's
Well, you got
there's
most
nothing
of it.
else.
Yeah. But Rick, you and I should get together. I think you're more of a 70s rock guy. I'm probably a bit more late 70s, early 80s on average, but I definitely have no problem playing earlier stuff.
So ZZ Top was there? No, that's Rick.
Well, I kept that back because it didn't fit into the show.
Yeah, Ricky Gibbons.
Yeah, Ricky Gibbons didn't really fit in with the other four here. And
but I mean, I definitely play some of the same stuff you do. I'd have to learn the specific song. So we can come up with a set of like 5 or 6 and actually learn them all the way through, and we'll figure out who's doing lead, who's doing rhythm.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
I would have to really tone down my Oingo Boingo to fit Taylor in.
That's the other thing too. Like Taylor and Amy, who are some of the best singers, especially Taylor. She's a phenomenal singer.
Yeah, she's good.
They're 10 years younger than me, so I mean, they're going to learn stuff probably in the 90s. Like maybe we should do some like Pearl Jam or something along that line from the
90s. we need some amplification.
So I vow to actually learn some songs all the way through instead of me trying to remember them half-assed. And maybe come up with a bit of a set list. We'll pick a few songs that Rick and I can both learn and have lyric sheets printed out so that anybody wants to come up and sing them doesn't have to try to remember what was verse 3, type of thing. I mean, I don't mind doing like loose blues jams and stuff, but those are a bit boring for people that sing because most people don't improvise.
Let's do Fish. Right.
Grateful
I've heard
Dead.
this all before. I hope you can work it out this time.
Yeah, I think the only people that actually had songs like start to finish ready to go was Rick and Taylor and Amy, and the rest of us, just kind of winged it.
Did something weird, right?
Yeah.
Oh, new Discord channel. The copyright strikes.
Actually, I was kind of flattered because they copy striked a lot of my stuff that I was playing, so obviously I was playing it fairly close.
Yeah, that's why I stuck that on my CoCo Man channel, not on my Fairly Amused vlog channel. I just didn't want to deal with
Curtis
that.
is a little too good.
Yeah, so
yeah, I never thought I'd hear those words uttered out of anybody's mouth. Never mind. Well, no, Nick never has said that to me. So, next up, and actually, we have the author that I think is still on the call, Mr. Bob Emery. If you're hearing us, this is your setting up a GoTech. So I'm going to mute it, and if you just want to kind of mention what you're exactly covering here. Except you're muted and you kind of just walked away. There we go.
Mic working. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my controller there with the built-in side select and setting up a GoTech from scratch. This was a request from one of the Discord users.
David Ladd, I think it was actually.
It wasn't David.
Oh, wasn't? Okay. I know he thanked you for it, so I thought it was him.
Yeah. Go through choosing one.
Now, this is something I was not aware of. So there's different types of GoTechs and some don't work or don't work as well?
They all
the firmware.
Yeah, they all can work. It's just that the newest one with the larger screen, you can't get that screen. Like these are, it's the same size LCD, but the board is different. That board won't fit. Although I did see on another channel where you can actually separate the LCD from the board and like lay the board back in there and it'll work, but that seems like a lot of trouble. To me, it's worth just paying the $50 for the good one rather than paying $30 and having to do all that work. But also go through the full downloading and installing flash floppy, actually running the firmware setup, how to do some troubleshooting if your drive doesn't show up in the programmer. There's kind of 3 specific things to look for. And then how to set up an actual USB thumb drive to get it running.
And then you have this config file here where I guess you're setting parameters for the emulated drives.
That's basically a default file, and I just kind of scrolled through the whole thing and changed the few settings that we have to change to get it working, and then a couple of display settings that you'll need to configure, for whatever you're actually using.
I mean, to be honest, this when I saw this looked a lot more complicated than I was expecting for what I just assumed was a floppy. I mean, maybe I'm just spoiled from the CoCo STC, but this covers like a variety of machines, so you have a lot of options.
Originally, I think it was for Amigas, and they support a lot more. I mean, even the pins on the drive, the CoCo doesn't use.
Yeah.
But
so,
yeah,
I mean, for myself personally, I would probably recommend a CoCo STC if you're just doing CoCo stuff because it's just a lot simpler.
Yeah,
but if you're a multi-platform retro computer enthusiast, like say Ken or...
And if you actually have floppy drives that you would like to convert to virtual disks, a GoTech and a real floppy drive is a great combination.
Yeah, because you can use an SEC and a GoTech at the same time, can't you? Because it just plugs into the regular disk controller, correct?
You would need a multi-pack.
Yeah.
If you don't have a multi-pack, then you'll need a GoTech and a controller.
Yeah, because I brought my floppy drives down with my CoCo SDC, and I've actually transferred a ton of stuff between with a multi-pack, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you don't have the multi-pack, it's a little more complicated, but
yeah. And I know, Rick, you're working on multi-packs, and hopefully Ed starts getting his back in stock again, since he actually had some CoCo SDCs show up in stock recently.
Exactly.
So, hey, Bob, thanks for making that video, because I learned a lot more about the GoTech than I'd known before. Like I said, I didn't know it had all these options here, so it looks like it'll cover just about anything you could hook up to it.
Yeah, the main ones that I found important is just as far as the interface was increasing the time on the auto selection from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. When you're trying to use that encoder, especially with my old blurry eyes, I can't read those things in 2 seconds often,
Okay. Well, cool. Well, I know Dave thanked you already, but I'll thank you as well. It was a really informative video.
Yep, got more on the way.
And you like Rush, so that's always awesome too.
Hey, can't go wrong.
Oh, did you finally get a chance for me to check out that video that Jason put up for the jam session? Because I think I actually did have that little bit of the Rush theme song you use. I learned like 10 seconds of it.
I found your time code. You're at 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 13 seconds in.
Holy crap, you stayed awake that entire time?
Pretty much. I almost started to comment with a specific set list.
Okay, next up in the news, we have a couple from Alan Huffman. So the first one here was optimizing BASIC for speed versus size. And that these are usually, well, not usually, I should say, they're more often than not mutually exclusive. Because if you unroll something, it's going to take more space code-wise, but will run faster. There are certain techniques, of course, you can use that actually do both. And he goes through a whole bunch of them here. And kind of divides them up as the ones that are optimized more for space, or others are optimized more for speed, with a lot of program examples showing you how to do specific things like this. So that's pretty good. If you're just writing basic programs, then this is for regular, extended basic, super extended basic, disk basic, etc. If you're trying to fit something that's in 16K, for example, or if you're trying to get a game or a certain utility you're writing to run as fast as humanly possible, without having to resort to ML subroutines, etc. This is a really good article. It kind of summarizes a bunch of techniques all in one shot. And then his second one here was follow-up to the one we covered last week, CoCo Disk Basic Disk Structure. So on the first part, he kind of covered how a directory track on the CoCo works, what a granule is, and kind of, the bare necessities of the granule thing. Here he does the deep dive into, the actual file allocation table and how it flags if it's, the last granule of a file, and then it switches to how many sectors are left in that one and how many bytes are left. So he goes through the nitty-gritty details of how the directory structure and the granule tables, etc. work. So if you've ever wondered about that, he's also got a nice sample basic program that goes through a lot of this stuff. It actually figures out the exact byte size of files going through the directory structure manually in BASIC. So if you want the number of bytes that a program takes rather than the number of granules, this program will do it for you. Good deep dive. Next up, this is kind of a fascinating one for me. I did not use Flex that much in the old days. I did fiddle with it for a bit around 82, 83 before OS 9 came out. And it's basically kind of between Disk Basic and OS 9. It's a real operating system. So it has abstractions for doing files and doing, text and graphics, etc. But Mikey is going to be doing this multi-part series on Flex, because he's actually managed to recover some of the original Flex disks from back then, at least as close as he can. And I'd kind of forgotten how many versions of Flex were ported to the CoCo. So originally, Flex came out in 78, 79, I think it was. And it was originally by TSC, Technical System Consultants, I believe. But there was Steve Odneal did the first port, and I think that required an Extron drive because when that version came out, Tandy's floppy drives weren't even out yet. They were still running cassette as far as Tandy was concerned. And then Spectral had one called Flex Plus. Frank Hogg, of course, had their version of Flex. There might have even been a fourth one later on. I don't remember. But he's done this first blog kind of just going through the history of Flex. And you'll see a couple strange things here. So I'll just mute because there's a little bit of music here. But his little intro to this particular chapter on Flex shows an original Frank Hogg system disk here that says Color Computer Flex, but it says copyright in 1979. Now, those of you that know CoCo history know that CoCo was not released or not even announced until July 1980.
Yeah.
So basically, this is more referring to the fact that 5.0.4, which is the version number you see in the top right of the label, that's the version of Flex that was ported to CoCo. That is copyrighted in 1979. But obviously the CoCo version didn't come out till probably 81, I think, is when the first Frank Hogg ads started showing up in 6 to 8 Microjournal. But he goes through a fair bit of it. He goes through the Spectre one, he goes through some going through the history here, like when the CoCo was first announced and kind of going through when Radio Shack started upgrading and adding stuff like 32K RAM. Then going through some of the old ads in Rainbow from 81, 82. Here they're mentioning in the November 1981 issue of Rainbow that the Tandy disk system finally came out in July of 81. So about a year after the CoCo was announced. And of course, it was hideously expensive. Here's when they started advertising the 32K kits finally, which is in the 82 catalog. Here's the original Steve Odneal version sold by Datacomp of Flex for the color computer. And he goes into something that's a little bit of interesting history here. Originally, when Frank Hogg did the port of Flex, it was originally for $200, and then he cut the price in half, and then later cut it again. But in his early ads, he also started advertising the fact that he was going to be doing a version of OS 9 for the CoCo. And in fact, you can see that right here. And I think we covered some of this on the Frank Hogg interview we did a couple years back, but basically that never happened. He was working on getting OS 9 and Flex both ported to the CoCo. OS 9 is a bit more complicated, so that was going to be second, but basically Flex was the first one he got out. But they were going to be the official people porting OS 9 to the CoCo. And that never happened. I don't even know if this version ever got sold, if this all was pre-ads. But basically, unknown to Frank, Microware and Tandy started talking directly to each other. And eventually, Tandy started selling OS 9 in September or August of 1983, totally on their own. And of course, they kept selling it through level 2 and version 1.01, version 1.1, version 2 of OS 9 level 1. And of course, they sold games and applications and stuff with the actual operating system included in it for it to run. So this is kind of I wouldn't say false advertising. They did start the programming of this to get, CoCo drivers for the Bitbanger and for the video chip and the sound PIAs, everything else. But it never got completed because this kind of behind the scenes deal was going between Microware and Tandy. And of course, they brought it out on their own. So this was a rather fascinating video. If you want a bit of history on Flex in particular, but even a little bit of the OS 9 before Tandy brought it out, and where it might have gone if Tandy had not done that. It's a pretty fascinating video, so I'm looking forward to the other parts of this too. But I know he's actually got it running. The version of Spectrals was called Flex Plus, and there was some code he found on one of the disk images there that mentions checking for the supercharger. I don't know if anybody here has been around the CoCo long enough to remember what the heck a Spectral supercharger was. But that was originally a 64K RAM upgrade that you plugged into this actual cartridge port. So their big ad was you don't have to modify your CoCo, because if you ever tried to upgrade a D board or a C board to run 64K, there's a lot of stuff you got to do. There's bent pins and wires and cutting traces on the circuit board and all kinds of stuff. It's not for the faint-hearted. And Spectral was selling the 64K upgrade that went through the cartridge port specifically, so there was no soldering, no nothing. You just plugged it in and voila, you get 64K. And there's Flex Plus used the supercharger as one of the options. Now, from what Mikey said, it does actually work on a regular 64K upgraded CoCo, so I think it auto-detected whatever was different about the Spectre one. I've never seen a CoCo with that board plugged into the cartridge port, so I don't know too much about it. I just remember seeing the ads. So I'm really interested to see what else hidden little bits he's going to find as he goes through his Flex journey, and what he thinks of the various versions of Flex. And I don't even know, honestly, myself, how much of a difference there was between all the different types of Flex that were available. So I'm curious on that as well. So looking forward to your future episodes, Mike.
So was Flex really very CPM-ish, essentially?
Yeah, from my brief playing of it, it does seem to be. I mean, it did support, running executables just by typing the name of the command, much like CPM. Instead of like load M and then exec or run, whatever type thing, you just typed in, Sailorman, and then it would run. That's a bad example. They never made Sailorman for Flex. And of course, it supported, higher floppy drives, like Tandy's Disk Basic supported 35 track, single-sided, that's it.
Yeah.
They supported 80 track, double-sided, so you could get 720K on a disc, or 3 discs or whatever. It was more for, I guess, the hobbyist, serious user, or people that were doing assembler, and they had a bunch of languages available for it, like COBOL and Fortran and Forth and compiled BASIC, all kinds of stuff. Similar to what OS9 had later on as well. It did not multitask. It was not multi-user as far as logging people in the same time. So it wasn't quite as advanced, but it also gave you more free RAM. So you could write bigger programs than a level 1 system could do in the same amount of, 64K. But yeah, I mean, if OS9 had not taken off or not been sold by Tandy, it probably would have been the, the business user / serious hobbyist operating system. But we'll see, because Mike's going to be doing a lot of other videos based on this. I'm kind of curious what else he finds. Next up, we have Dave here, who was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he still is. He was kind of going through, because people were asking, how do you take artwork you've done on a PC or a Mac or a Linux box and get it onto a CoCo to run on a 16-color screen for CoCo 3? So Dave does his method, where he's creating stuff in, I think, Paint Shop Pro. And then he tells it to downscale it, and you get a bunch of options for like dithering and pure color and different color sets trying to match. And then he shows you how to, copy those files over to the CoCo after splitting them into 8K chunks. So then you can just use pokes and load M's to map in different MMU blocks. You can actually load in a full 32K screen in BASIC fairly easily. I'm sure, Nick, this is what you do too if you're loading a title screen or something, or even some of your graphic stuff.
I use Roger Taylor's projector program.
Yeah, and I usually use Tim Cancel's View program, because I can convert a GIF to a, whatever. But, this is Dave's method, and he's actually got some samples, and he does a step-by-step of what he's using. And I think all the programs he's using are free, so this isn't going to cost you anything. He's got, some utilities for hacking, hex parts of the headers off of Disk Basic, BMP headers and stuff like that to strip them out, because you won't be using them on the CoCo side. So pretty good detailed video. So if you want some information on that's available on YouTube. Next up, Classic Computing Log, and I'm not sure who this is. Does anybody else know of this channel? It's only got 5 subscribers, so I don't know if any of you have even heard of it. But they did a over half-hour kind of summary of the fest. And one thing I liked about this is that for everybody that he talked to or took photos of their booth, if they weren't around, he actually labeled each one on the actual video itself. Like, this is Mark Overholzer. This is Canadian Retro Things, etc. So he actually goes through, and you can, if you're looking at a project and it looks really cool, or something on their screen looked really cool, instead of trying to remember who the heck was that again that did that, it's actually labeled, so you can actually figure out pretty good. I won't play that because it's over half an hour, but definitely worthwhile checking out if you're trying to remember who did what at the fest, which is something I need to do to get some more guests on here to talk about the projects. Ken, this is partly CoCo related and partly not, so I will let you explain what that means, and I'll fast forward a bit here and talk away, sir.
Okay, well, this is just basically a show and tell video of everything I picked up at CoCo Fest and on my trip home. I bought a few things, I got this Adam off of Sloopy at CoCo Fest, and I bought a few games off of him. Plus, I picked up some CoCo-related products. But on the way home, I had somebody donate 2 boxes of stuff to my channel, which contained a lot of stuff. A lot of floppy disks. So I'm sure that if...
that's one of the boxes there, right?
Yeah, that's the main box.
including your pistol grip joystick, which is a good
pistol grip joystick. I think 6 things of floppy disks and games. Like, it's just it was a lot.
Nice.
Now, is this somebody you met at the fest, or is this somebody you prearranged with before?
No, this is somebody I prearranged before because he actually lived on the my route coming home from CoCo Fest. So
okay,
this way I could just pick this stuff up rather than paying like $500 to have it all shipped.
Yeah, I know about that. And FedEx has been doing much better. 2 packages have already been delivered. Actually, 3, I guess, because Grant said his has received. He's, of course, hunting tornadoes because he's insane. But Mark, you still have not received anything, have you?
No, I haven't seen anything. I did last day I was checked was yesterday, so
okay,
no notification or anything like that. So I don't think.
I haven't had checks to see if she's responding yet, but I did ask Taylor if she had a tracking number for your particular package because I'd like to get this cleaned up. It's only been a month.
No. Yeah, well,
for overnight Saturday delivery.
I'm on the far side of the country, so I figure, yeah, I don't mind. I'll live.
In the meantime, I think David Ladd's already finished all of his chocolates now, or he might have had 1 left out of 6.
Yeah.
So Ken, before I go on to the next story, I just wanted, it doesn't have to be CoCo related, but what was the either the most impressive or the thing you lust over the most out of all the stuff you bought during this entire trip?
Good question.
That was like a Commodore cartridge.
Yeah, that was a Commodore cartridge, a mystery Commodore cartridge. So I just have to fix my Commodore so I can, because my Commodore's perpetually broken.
Ooh, that's an IBM PC card.
That Tandy 1200 card.
Yeah.
I don't know what I like the best. Probably that pistol. Well, I mean, so far the thing that I've used the most is that pistol grip joystick.
Yeah, and that one actually, if I remember, that works on the Tandy 1000 series as well. So if you have one of those,
yeah,
it's you just straight plug it in and away you go. Cool. And then you got a bunch of backups of discs here.
Yes,
so.
Offsite backups. I just have no idea what system they're for because none of them are labeled with what system they're for.
Yeah, and I did recognize some titles that were cross-platform, so I couldn't even help you. Like I can go, I remember that game, but it's on the Apple and the Atari and the C64 and the Spectrum or something.
I think they should all be Atari, Apple, or Commodore. So
okay, so this guy didn't have any CoCo stuff as far as discs went.
No,
it says.
So you got a lot of stuff you can reformat and use in a real computer.
Is that an Apple GS one?
That's an Apple II GS.
Right.
3.5-inch. But then who knows what all those offsite backups are. I guess I can just keep trying them in my different systems so they work.
Yeah. If you're really lucky, you might find a copy of Cosmic Bomber by Nick Morenz for the Model 1 and 3 that he lost years ago.
Yeah. Good luck.
I don't think there's any Model 1 or 3 games in there.
No,
I didn't see any. Anyway, it's a really cool video. A lot of cool stuff picked up. It's definitely a lot of multi-platform. That's not strictly CoCo. There is CoCo stuff snuck in there. Obviously, the stuff you got from the fest itself, you got some CoCo stuff, and then the pistol grip joystick.
The box had a few things and some CoCo magazines too.
Yeah, even some Tandy branded floppy disks in here too. Like you can see the jacket there, and the old style and the new style. So maybe he had some CoCo stuff in there because
there might be.
Because honestly, Radio Shack discs were some of the most expensive floppies you could buy. And you didn't really gain anything for spending that extra money. So,
but actually living in Canada, if you had to order them through, like if you lived somewhere like I did, you either had to order them through another store or buy them at Radio Shack. So you either had to wait 5 or 6 days.
Oh no, I just went to the Apple store or the.
Oh, see, we didn't have that. We had a Radio Shack and then we had outlet places. So you could buy it today at Radio Shack, or you could buy it for next week from Sears. Or
that makes sense then,
right? Across the alley from my Burger King job. Hey,
because every town just seemed like in Canada had a Radio Shack just about.
Yeah, on Saskatoon we had 5 that I know of, plus a computer center. But we also had Apple II stores and Commodore stores and stuff too.
We eventually got an Apple II store, but. When I first got my TRS computer, we only had a Radio Shack. Otherwise, it was mail order for everything else.
We
Yeah.
made a lot of flippies.
Yep, the whole punch. I mean, I did have some Radio Shack discs, and like you, sometimes if the other stores were out of stock, then I would run over to Radio Shack if I really need a disc right now. And I do remember when I bought my disc drive for $800 Canadian with the cartridge controller, they included one free disc, so I saved $5 there.
A whole free disc.
Yeah, it was nicely packaged, wasn't it? Little plastic slipcover thing.
Yeah.
Well, I know for the when I had access to the Apple II computer from my mom, all my offsite backup games were made on Tandy discs because that was the most convenient for me to get.
Yeah, and they were decent quality. They weren't like terrible quality. There was definitely brands I bought that I had way more trouble with than Tandy ones. They were just so overpriced was the only issue. But like you said, if that's what you had.
Do you guys think that floppy drives and floppies were like over-engineered because, it's 40 some years and they're still working?
Not all of them are. That's David when he recovered that source code for ice hockey when it made hideous noises in his floppy drive.
I don't have a floppy drive that ever quit or was too dirty, did not work, or all of mine work.
They can work for a very long time. That's true.
I've got one or two floppy drives, 5 1/4 that are dead. And the original, was it the Tech brand, the full height with that pushable slot thing button to open the drive? Those were crap. That was actually giving me trouble already by the late 80s.
Those were actually called disc cruncher drives because they gave you trouble from the late 8 minutes.
Yeah. Those were not good quality drives. I'm glad Tandy switched them out for tandons, I think, later on when they brought the 40-track full heights, and then they switched to the half heights after that, which were pretty reliable. I've still got several of those running. But that original Tech drive, actually, once I bought a tandon drive, I got rid of it because it was already giving me problems corrupting directories. And it wasn't the 1.0 ROM problem because I upgraded to 1.1 and still corrupted drive images all the time, or not images, but disks. It was just a piece of crap. Also, it didn't run at 6 milliseconds, only ran up to 20 as its fast speed. So
we enjoyed it when ADOS came out because then we could use the drives that read both sides.
Yeah, without having to flip it.
Yep.
But then you'd lend the disk to a friend and they couldn't read it because they didn't have the same type of drive or ADOS. So it kind of caused some problems too.
Well, all of us friends shared stuff, so.
Well, that was the problem though, because we tried sharing it, but Dwayne would format a 40-track double-sided disk under ADOS, and then I would have a 40-track single-sided drive, and I couldn't read it.
Well, you could read up to the extra, right?
I'm trying to remember
because it was alternate sides. So if you had a Tandy cable, you couldn't work either because they stripped out the drive select as a side select.
Right.
And even though your single-sided drive and a double-sided drive would work, the double-sided part wouldn't work because of the Tandy cable. And so there was so much confusion from everybody about what drive would do what, when, and where that it just...
Yeah, the only really safe thing was keep them single-sided, but maybe run 40-track or even 80 if you had drives for that, because that was pretty clean. But once you started getting the sides, like those 3 missing pins on the connector that Tandy had, there was all kinds of issues if you're swapping discs. I had stuff where, I'd run to Dwayne's, fine, come here, run it. It would give me a FM error, iOware, because it couldn't read it because there's no second side, and that was a pain in the ass.
Good thing David Ladd's not here.
Oh, yeah. We'd be going for another 3 hours on that alone.
Right.
Okay, next up, Master Geek BR, which stands for Brazil, and this is in Portuguese, uploaded a video of him recreating the very first program he created in BASIC for CP400 that he wrote when he was only 9 or 10 years old, which is just a simple little graphics demo, which I'll play a little tiny bit of a clip here just so you can see what it does.
Fala aí, gente, seja bem-vindo. Hoje vídeo muito, mas muito especial para mim. É o seguinte.
Anyway, I mean, you could take a look and go, do you really need to see 6.5 minutes of watching circles draw? And actually, the more interesting part of the video for me is not the fact he recreated this program he did, but he actually shows the actual parts of the manual for the CP400, which is quite different than the CoCo manuals. If I can find.
And not because of language.
No. Yeah, so here's kind of going through a little bit of the manual. I thought he did a zoom up of it here. Talking about the 8-bit guy with some of the basic stuff. Because basically this video is about, learning basic for the first time when you're a young kid type thing. And I went through this myself, but
Well, this machine came out after ours did, right?
yes.
Yeah. So they had a chance to do better on the manuals if they could.
Can't remember why he has Elon Musk in here. Though Elon, famously, his very first published thing was a basic program, a basic game in some magazine when he was like 14. Maybe it was the second video he did that had that. Anyway, he kind of goes through the history of learning basic, etc. So that was pretty cool. And you can turn on the auto translation in Google and get, mostly English. Next up, Glenn Hewlett, who's at CoCo Fest. And of course, he's done most of the awesome transcodes we've seen, like Pac-Man and Joust and Defender and Robotron, etc. So he did a weblog here because when he went to CoCo Fest, he actually visited Mark Marlette at Cloud9 and got a 2 meg RAM upgrade installed. And then he also went to Frank and got a couple 609s put in his CoCo 3s as well. So now he's got a 512K CoCo 3 with 609 and a 2 meg one. So he said, I got to learn how to use this 2 meg thing because obviously some of the MMU registers and stuff are a little bit different. So what does he do as his first test? He does a CoCo 3 memory test. Now, there are existing ones out there that will actually do up to 8 meg. This only does up to 2 meg because he's not quite sure how the 8 meg one works. But this was to him to learn how to program it, not just to test the RAM. So he just, that was his deciding project for doing it. And it goes through some fairly extensive stuff. Now, he mentions here that's based on MemTest 86 Plus. Now, if I remember correctly, that was an actual PC one that was meant
to it regularly.
Yeah, and I think I still have it. It even had a special boot disk, if I remember, not even formatted normally.
It's still widely used and is, there's versions for Mac and Linux, and there's source code and all kinds of cool stuff for that guy out there.
Yeah, and it doesn't just check you write something and read it back. It does bit shifts and coming around from coming from back memory to forward memory and forward to back, etc. It does a whole range of stuff to check to make sure that everything doesn't have any little outside cases where it's not going to work reliably. So it's a very extensive. And I like the fact he actually detects if it has 639, he kicks in native mode. He stack blasts some of the tests here to speed it up. So he's trying to get it to run as fast as possible. I don't know if all the other ones I've seen actually go to that extent. So he's kind of learning a little bit about his 639. He was learning, how to access 2 meg of RAM. So he learned a lot going through it, and he actually, has it available for download if you want to try his particular one. I know there's that famous one by what's his name? Richard Godekin, was that the guy that did the 8 meg one?
Yeah, CoCo Stress.
Yeah. Does he do all these bit shift tests and all that kind of stuff too on that one? Bit fade and all that kind of thing? Or has he done a more basic tests? I can't remember.
There's a bunch of them, but I don't know everything that he's got in that code.
Okay. Now, James Jones just mentioned in the chat, he says MemTest 86 Plus isn't for Windows, Mac, or Linux. It boots up by itself and doesn't count on any OS being there, which is what I would remember that it's a custom formatted disk.
I think the last one I used has like a FreeDOS boot. But yeah, maybe custom.
Well, that's to get the disk to work long enough to load the program, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for CoCo, if you want a completely reliable one, you should get that one we covered months ago, which actually has a little ROM.
This info one. Oh, no,
What's
that
that?
doesn't do memory test. No, wrong one. Don't worry.
Okay.
Or this project. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to actually get the project itself, you go to NowhereMan9999, or sorry, 999. On GitHub, that's Glenn Hewlett's own. And he's actually got the disk image there. You can just download and then transfer it to an STC, etc. And he's got the assembly language source code up there. He's got README files
Just
explaining what it's doing.
downloaded it.
Yeah. So, like I said, it won't do 8 meg machines or 16 meg or any of the the higher end ones. That there are some options. Like Ed Snyder does have an 8 meg option that he sells as a possible bundle with the Gaming X as well as a 2 meg board. So it doesn't test that. But if most people would just go to 2 meg, 8 meg is probably just for us almost 9 nutcases.
Yeah,
for the most part. Anyway, well documented, so you can give it a shot, including the source code. This is showing some of David Kroeker's stuff that he posted about his DICOM adapter we just talked to him about, that he posted on our Discord. So this actually has some of the pinouts. You can see where it's connecting to the serial connector and to the joystick connector. Some of his notes, and then a kind of a nice still picture of the actual interface itself with a 9-volt battery that I hope he can get rid of. And this was a test program that he mentioned that Tim Linner had written here, kind of a hybrid of BASIC and machine language. And basically it records the X and Y coordinates that it detects that you aimed at the screen and shot and clicked the button on the trigger button on the actual gun itself. And anything that has 00 basically means it's completely off screen, and it, basically don't count that shot at all. So that's when he actually got it working after he did a few bodge wires. Next up, this one I'd not seen before. So this is SG6 text by Jim Gary for the MC10. SG6, of course, is the extra mode that isn't used too often, that actually does a slightly higher vertical resolution than the standard set reset graphics, but it limits your colors to far less than the 9, including black. But it does give you 64 by 48. So he's actually created a font basically for this that he actually demonstrates here. And of course, you can download the actual code, but you can see it's actually drawing characters in this slightly higher res mode that you can actually read. And he's actually used this font in some of his other games. Like one that's featured in the Jim Gary commercial, I think. Fruit Panic. Yeah, uses this particular font and that particular mode, 64 by 48. And you can also see that it does some weird stuff with the cursors. You can get some vertical lines, which I know he's using in some of his like skiing games and stuff to draw trees. Next up, Paul Shoemaker released a quick little 30-second video showing an installation of Brendan Donaghy's Pi Key 10 adapter. So this is an adapter that goes into the MC10. You can combine it with a CoCo VGA if you want, and it actually has rerouted power and reset switches. So you can get to them much easier. It has the 2 joystick ports. I think those are for, I think when you
they're
click
digital joystick ports that basically push the keyboard keys.
Yeah, basically. So you basically have a digital style joystick based on, the common keys that are used for MC10 games, which we've shown videos of that in before too. But this basically lets you use, modern keyboards hooked up, which this is what this cable here is going for. So I'll just play the video and kind of demonstrate it looking. And the funny thing is it actually enables both keyboards at the same time. So you can type on the MC10 keyboard at the exact same time you're typing in on the modern keyboard. I think he just demonstrates them sequentially, but basically they both work simultaneously.
Just needs a real-time clock.
So you turned it on from the rerouted power
That
switch.
helps. Wow, clicky keyboard.
Yep. So there you can see both keyboards are working at the same time. So that's just plain old cool.
So you can have one hand on the left keyboard and the other hand on the right. Makes it a big keyboard.
Well, joysticks and the joystick adapters, and then you've got a keyboard besides. So yeah.
Yeah, and the 2 joysticks. He didn't demonstrate the joystick adapters on here, but or the reset switch. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And the fact it works with the CoCo VGA, so you can actually get like really good VGA output and redefinable character sets and stuff that you can do. That's a pretty powerful MC10, and with a real keyboard, which is the main thing that most people do not like about the MC10.
It's a bit higher. It'll keep the window open higher too.
Nick, we're so far beyond that joke now.
Still.
Okay, this one is in the Dragon group on Facebook. So this person, I hope I pronounced this right, Kataja Kajuri, customized their Dragon 64 a bit, as they put it. So they have a sticker saying it's Y2K compliant, but I like this side. There's little wood grain surround for the keyboard, and obviously just cut out by hand here. But
He's been watching LGR, hasn't he?
I mean, it makes it look even more retro than it already was, because the Dragon 32 came out in 82. Adding the wood grain makes it look like 72 or something.
Yeah.
And the case is properly yellowed to almost match the wood grain.
Yellow, yeah, very yellow.
Just needs orange carpet and a green couch.
Yeah, and some carpet on the walls. That's the other thing it needs. But definitely, it makes a Dragon 32 look even more retro than it already is, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Dragon 32s are a little bit yellow to start with, as opposed to the 64s. So
yeah, and they definitely did yellow over time.
Yeah.
Worse. So next up after that, Julian Brown posts an update to his online 6809 emulator, including multiple bug fixes, although he still has a list of other ones he still has to fix. But this is the actual online emulator, so you can actually watch like register dumps and code changes and stuff as you're running. You can add labels, and actually you're running it literally in your web browser, kind of like tracking through. You can see there's a green button on the bottom right here, assemble source code, so you can punch in your own if you want to try it. And as I mentioned, there's still some bugs he's fixing, though he's fixed quite a few already. But this would be nice if you just want to do a quick little routine, not have to boot up the actual CoCo or Dragon or whatever to try it. You can actually just hop on there and just quickly type in some 609 code and see what the output is. Like, did the carry bit get set if I do this particular thing or whatever you're trying to test?
That'd be good for tutorials too. Look, have little programs.
Yeah, because you can literally watch the registers change and single step through as you're going. So, like, I don't figure. Yeah, you can hear I'm single stepping through, and you can actually watch what part of the code it's in. Now it's doing a JSR. Now the stack has changed from 8,000 to 7FFE to push the PC return address onto the stack, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's actually a pretty good for doing tutorials, like you said, Nick, or just if you need to test something quick to say, does that flag get set the way I think it does if I do this math function or whatever type thing, or a certain branch, is it getting triggered properly? Especially if you're going between signed and unsigned, you might forget. So once it bugs out of this, I think I will start using this a little bit actually, because there's some every once in a while, like I have to, like I do it right now in Nitrous 9. I'll boot it up and I have a little test.asm that I have kicking around that I always do little routines in, but I have to boot Nitrous 9, then run the assembler on it. And here it's just instantaneous on a web browser. So, and very well presented, I might add.
Yeah, no, it is well laid out.
So this is also a Project Rescue. So there has been this 6809 emulator for several years up on 6809.org.uk. And I kept running into it every time I was trying to get to 6E's website for XROR stuff. But it's not related to 6E. This just someone else had built this thing. But what Julian had noticed was that the domain was getting ready to expire and that it has stopped being updated. And so what he's trying to do is get a hold of the folks who built this originally and offer to, keep it going and stuff like that. And he's basically mirroring it before it disappears. And as he was mirroring it, he found that there were some places that he could start even, contributing some updates and some patches and things like that. So, if you're out there, original creators of this emulator, as you can tell now, hopefully this is actually a pretty cool tool and people do use and appreciate it. And we'd like to hear from you, and we'd like to keep this alive.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know that whole backstory, so that's cool.
It's hiding in one of the channels on the Discord, as they were posting updates to getting this going, and where the GitHub and things like that is. I believe it's in the assembly channel. And like I said, I keep running into the site over and over again looking for 6809 assembler. I'm trying to check the version of 6E's assembler, for example. I ended up going to this site instead. So, but this is the new one at UK Dragons. The original one is the one I kept running into accidentally.
Yeah, Brian Walsh comments here, and he's mentioning like. Sorry, go ahead.
The presentation has not been changed. It's been like this the whole time, where you just put your code in and walk through it. So yeah.
Okay. Like Brian Walsh is pointing out here, he said the carry bit set to 4, because you have to look at the CC register here on the left. You've got the entire flag, the fast inner flag at half carried, blah, blah, blah. But he's got not just the bit being on or off, he's got 8-4. So I think the actual 8-4 is the hexadecimal. So basically the high bit, the entire flag set, because they're about to do an RTS. And then the bit, would it be bit 3, bit 2, if you're going base 0, flag is set. I think this is actually the raw hex. So that's one of the bugs to still fix, is it has to break that hex value apart to each of the individual bit
binary
flags. Yeah. But I mean, when they both posted about it, they did mention they'd fixed like 5 or 6 bugs recently, and there's a list of at least 3 or 4 more they know they have to fix, and possibly others as more people test it. But yeah, I really like the presentation of this.
It's a good one, yeah. What's down below? It scrolls down.
Memory watch points, what the text screen currently looks like.
Screen, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this is only CoCo 1 and 2 Dragon, basically, so it's CoCo 1 and 2 equivalent, not CoCo 3 stuff.
Yeah, there's a link to the original at the bottom as well.
So, but yeah, it does show you the graphic screen and everything.
Yeah, so you could actually write a bit of code and then not only see it running the code, but see it what it'll look like on the screen if you're.
And that I
writing
would
from
really
screen.
like, because that would help me with some of the Nitrous 9 stuff I've been doing. Because right now, it's rendering to a screen that's not the current display screen in MAME, for example. I'm double buffering, so I'm displaying screen buffer 1. I'm writing stuff, for Rescue on Fractal, something on screen buffer 2, but I can't actually see the damn thing to see what it's actually updating. And this might allow you to get around that. I'm not sure. But if you can specify just the start address of where the screen is, then I can tell it to look at a different screen than actually is being displayed. Yeah, it looks really good. I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, the new person on it actually can keep it going, and hopefully they do get a hold of the original author. And
Yeah,
maybe he'll join back in. Next up, another from David Mitchell of Davies Retro Corner. This one's called 3D, and this one here is another one originally for the Dragon 32 that he's retyped in by Dr. Tim Langdell from the book 35 Programs for the Dragon 32, which was actually one of the game ones he covered earlier. Same book. This is basically one of those, standard use sine and cosine to draw, fancy 3D-ish look shapes, and it's quite slow. So I'll just fast forward. You can kind of see the finished product. It's kind of just doing the 3D, not quite the hat one, but similar. And that's it for the news this week. Hey, David Ladd's on the call.
Where'd he come from?
Oh, no.
It's because we spoke too much about floppy drives or floppy disks.
No,
Don't wake him up.
You got me. You said my name too many times, so I appeared.
What was the second word we put up following it?
Yeah. There's some adjectives and adverbs we added here we didn't think it would.
That's right. You missed out. You missed out on our floppy talk, David. Luckily, for us.
Oh, but I can start it up if you like.
Oh no!
Please.
Roll the end credits.
Mark's gone. We're trapped.
Well, to be honest, the show actually went longer than I was expecting because I wasn't sure how long David was going to be available, and there was quite a bit to talk about there. So I don't know if we want to keep going for a little bit longer or just call the show because it's been 3.5 hours already. But I would like to thank Mark Overholzer for hosting it because Mark Mosley, our regular streamer, was not able to make it. And there's a couple little glitches here at the beginning and stuff here, but it's complicated getting all this stuff up and running. I think you did a great job. Yeah, I think you worked out some of the the glitches here as the show went on too. So
right.
And it means that he's got no more excuses for starting and running his show idea, which has been building up a backlog of things for quite a while now. So
yeah, Ken and I are supposed to do an episode of that fairly soon too. So
what do you say, Mark?
What? Huh? I heard my name.
Yeah, you're committed. Too late.
Yeah, crap. Okay.
Your schedule, just have it all ready by then. We won't tell you what till we get there. But
All right, go back to sleep.
see, this is why Nick always leaves his his avatar up because he can sleep and we won't even know if he mutes it.
That's right. Yeah.
We know. We just say Nick every now and then, and whether
and then he doesn't show up for 5 minutes.
But just mention the word Neutroid and I'll be straight back.
Or Vegemite. There's a whole dictionary of Nick wake-up calls.
I put Vegemite on par with Neutroid. I would say that's an acceptable term.
I do have the sound effects for Neutroid, the new one, if you want to hear them. Well, I haven't got it in the program. I just got the original WAV file so I can hear what's coming.
So this is like a warning. Neutroid, another
warning.
Yeah, it's another version of Neutroid coming.
Project updates and acquisitions.
Why not give it to us?
They're just sound effects, so still got to massage them into the into the program, but I'll just see if I have got it easily available. But keep talking. I'll see if I can.
Where's
set
my
it up.
mute button again?
Hurry up in the show before it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's my original acquisition. I found this in a workbook. My Radio Shack daily color.
I got one of those. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was
How
good,
many
though.
people still have one of these?
I do.
Oh,
I
and
still have
inductors.
Yours looks well used, I must say.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to- Yep.
I eventually
used to,
memorized all this crap, but it took a while.
Yeah, they were great. Those.
So that's what that looks like in your memory.
No, this is what it looks like in life. In my memory, it's still nice and bright.
Oh,
And 39 cents was still a meaningful amount of money.
wow.
Now, is one of the new Neutroid sound effects? Is it wah 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 wah?
Wah, wah.
No, tell me if you can hear this. I'll just
Maybe some retching.
hang on. I've got to. Did you hear that?
Nope. Thank God.
Oh, okay. I haven't shared, so
Sounds
doesn't
great.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, silent.
Huge improvement over the version we played on the challenge recently.
Yeah.
That was the sound of the empty RAM where the effect has been
boy.
not loaded yet.
Yeah, no, I'll wait till I get it put in the game first rather than try to fiddle with it the other way.
But
Yeah, you can always inflict it on us later. So
Yeah, no, we'll leave it for next time.
but yeah, I'm gonna try to line up. I've still got to get some full blown interviews going. There's a few people that need to do that, and I also didn't want to try to get some of the people that were exhibiting new stuff at the fest to come on and kind of discuss their products and what they have available that some people might have missed if, like me, they didn't make it to every table. Well, I got Flutterball. That's the only other one I had listed besides David. So, because I didn't get to half the table, so I don't even know what the heck was out there. Like I said, Rick and Deke and Henry Strickland, I'd like to get them, or any combination thereof of them together to talk about some of the networking stuff you guys were fiddling with.
Right, because we never got that out during the actual fest. It was like Sunday afternoon, everything kind of came together. So, yeah, it would be good.
Speaking of network stuff, how Rick, how's your network card going? Is it available now?
Oh yeah, I'm
think it's on
cranking
your
it back
website,
out
isn't it?
again. I ran out
Yeah.
temporarily, but I'm not on any. I've been soldering all week, guys. I'm finally caught up from the CoCo Fest, I think, and can go back to the projects I was doing before the CoCo Fest.
Right.
So we'll see some more Orc 180 and multi-packing things because.
And the network interface is working properly. Like I remember you had problems with it.
There are exceptions. 86 gimme with the dynamic RAM doesn't work.
All right.
I've got a protector. I haven't got to plug it in yet because all of the other things I've had to get done. I want to see how that works because there was originally a time when that was a problem.
Yeah, well, that's what I've got. So.
So I will know pretty soon. Like I say, I just kind of.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be nice because mine has a protector in it as well, and that may have been part of my original flailing with that thing.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
I think I've got problems too. Yeah, so.
Because I'm kind of thinking these chips, the WizNet, the what's the other thing that's blowing up right now? In any case, they're fast chip. Oh, the STC itself, they're fast chips pretending to be slower, and I wonder if sometimes we're exceeding expectations a little bit with the 6309, et cetera, and that's where the dynamic RAM versus static RAM versus gimme.
Yeah, it slips a gear somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if the protector, because it buffers the address lines, doesn't it, from the CPU?
Buffers every dang thing.
So I'm wondering if that's causing problems with
Read, write, interrupts, you name it, it's buffered. So
yeah, because I'm seeing the glitches on the screen now since I put that in. So I think it is causing problems. It'd be good if there was a way you can put a jumper in just to stop that buffering.
Well, there's no such thing as a 0 nanosecond buffer, so
Yeah.
it's
all right.
What can you get away with and what can't you, and what can we get away with? I think he's making assumptions. If I'm fast enough, the 60X09 will never see it, and the old LS chips will never see it. But what about when you have a fast chip on the outside of the bus that can see that difference in timing?
Yeah, because I've got a 6309, yeah.
Well, because I'm running a WizNet or the SDC's running whatever Atmel chip. Those are much faster than they can see the difference in the buffer delay.
Yeah.
On like the interrupt line and so forth. And I wonder if that's somehow biting us both.
Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you get the buffer out, you're gold. But
yeah, it's the buffer, it's the protector part of it. Yeah.
Rick, how does the buffer work to save the CPU from getting broken? Like if you
blows up.
It blows up first.
Oh, okay. So in other words, your CPU is fine, but all those
the whole chip explodes. But
it's almost better just to have to buy a few 6309s as a spare.
But
blow up a 6309, just whack in another one.
Well, what's the whole idea of why do you have it then?
Well, it's plugging in cartridges. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the protector also has the extra address lines for more than 512K.
Well, that was the part I wanted, really. That's the only part I want for the 2 meg.
Right.
The
So
actual rest of the buffering is seems to be causing problems.
I've never seen any kind of problem with mine, and I have the buffer thing in there.
Mine works fine. It's
not.
just I do
Right.
see the glitches, the little sparklies when I'm using a gimme graphics mode. You do see sparklies, and it sometimes doesn't reset properly. I have to hit reset a few times.
Yeah.
But during operation, it works okay. I mean, it runs Nitrous 9, so that was one area I was hoping it would crash, but.
Well, now they've found a way for the STC to crash Nitrous 9.
Well, that's the firmware update.
Which I think is, well, I think we're related. Something the firmware is doing is exceeding we're exceeding expectations of the delay that the Atmel chip in the STC expects to see some manner. I think
we haven't changed the driver for the SDC in since beta 4 or 3 or 2 or something like that. So it's been fine until that firmware.
We're all stumbling into the same hole is what I'm saying here. And if we figure out one of them, we'll probably figure out all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we'll wait and see.
But meanwhile, I have other projects to work on, much like the software guys.
Yep.
And remember, just go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and you'll solve your problem.
Hey guys, I got a speech and sound pack at the show, and the manual is kind of thick, and it has like another language on the back part. And the guy that sold it to me was saying that it's bilingual or whatever.
Oh, cool.
Is that like a rare one or what?
Does it actually speak French, or is it just?
I'm not sure. I have it, but I haven't looked at it, closely.
That would be really cool if it has.
Is that the Tandy one? Sound and speech pack?
Well, hang on. I'll go get it. Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on.
I saw that.
But keep talking. And I'll be back.
I'll get it swearing in some other language.
Right? Because I saw the bilingual, but is that just the manual, or does it actually have phonemes in there to?
I would have thought it's the manual. Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess it might be the Quebec one or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because you can't sell anything in Quebec if it hasn't.
It doesn't have French.
Yeah.
No, just Quebec.
Well, nowadays we pretty often have both languages on pretty well everything, but yeah, back then I don't think it was quite as strict, or maybe I'm remembering wrong.
But anyway, the sound and speech pack, the speech on that is pretty hard to understand anyway. So you don't know.
Yeah, it
It
wasn't a
could be
great speech
talking.
pack.
Right,
That's right.
you
It
could
could be
just
any language you want there.
It could be Greek right now, for all I know.
That's
Yeah.
right. If you don't understand it, yeah, okay, it's bilingual. It's either English or it's stupid.
Well, I think it tells you something that the deluxe color computer had the AY sound chip from the sound speech back. They did not put the speech chip into the deluxe.
Yeah, no, that would have been good, but yeah,
yeah.
why didn't Tandy do this?
So
Come
as
on,
we're waiting
Ron.
for Ron, does anybody else have any last things they want to mention, or are we just going to take a look at this manual and then we'll call it a show?
Yep, I'd say so. I can play a game of
I know Ken's just fighting to stay awake as long enough to make it through the show tail end here, and he's almost failing at this point, so we better hurry
why
up.
don't you just start playing that Neutroid video again?
Actually, there you go, Ken. If you start playing Neutroid, you get so flustered and mad, you'll be wide awake in seconds.
Or I'll be out like a light in seconds from boredom.
Oh, I thought from banging your head against the table from the gameplay.
We can listen to David's floppy talk.
No, we don't have another 6 hours.
A
Here he
dramatic review of a sector of a floppy disk.
And actually, Curtis, I'm not fighting to stay awake. I'm fighting to wake up after the news.
Oh, well, that's expected. That's normal.
Okay, here we go. Here's Ron.
Okay, it says it's a well, first of all, let's see. Let me get rid
The
of the
Tandy
background.
one, yeah.
Let me get rid of the background. Okay, so
No, he
I'm
found
not-
the heat.
He ran from the garage.
Okay,
Right?
I don't know.
I remember that manual, yeah. Oh, that is a thick one, all right. Although, yeah,
It's upside down.
it is.
Yeah. Quadrilanguage.
It
Oh,
says
look, it's English. It's English now.
That's pretty
I don't know if
hefty.
you can see
Perfect.
it.
balance.
That is a thick manual, yeah.
Yeah, there's the is that French or is that
That's
Spanish?
French,
That's
yeah.
French cartouche. Yeah.
Yeah, and it says on the cartridge 26-3144A, number DE space MODELE, made in Korea, and then it says it in French.
Yeah, that looks like it's the regular speech sound pack that was also
Yeah,
labeled to be
manual.
sold in Quebec.
Yeah, but the manual is dual
Yeah, it's double
language.
sided where you flip it over and it's a French manual. That's Canadian.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, distributed in Canada, as it even says there.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, does it have 2 ROMs in it, or a big ROM, or
Probably not.
I would say it just probably has the original ROM. Because basically
Yeah.
you
Oh,
program
'cause-
by what is it called?
Phonemes. Yeah.
Phonemes, yeah.
The phonemes aren't in the ROM, are they? They're in the speech
No, that's
chip itself.
what you send the cart. So I guess you could do any language if you
Yeah, because
send
you
the
basically
right-
just pick the sounds
Ah.
to pronounce whatever.
so
Okay.
this model number 3144A is
That's
the
common.
same as, okay,
That's the regular one.
all right.
Yeah, Tim Lindner has a really great site on the speech sound pack that includes all the stuff that goes on inside of it. So there's a speech chip that contains the allophones that are the actual recreation of the voice parts. And then there's a
That's
ROM
it.
that does the text to speech conversion
Conversion.
using
Yeah.
a very, very interesting algorithm. I think it was developed like by the Navy or something that can do a pretty good job of text to speech in a very small footprint of code.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I think that
By
wraps
the
it up
way-
for today's show then. Or unless Nick wants to prattle on more. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, either way, it sounds like a Dalek from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Some of us think that's a benefit.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, if you want writing a Doctor Who game, it's perfect.
Every game that has robots as bad guys should be using the speech pack.
Yeah, better than the Spectral Associates Android like Intuita Awit.
Exterminate Nick. Exterminate Nick.
I read in the booklet that it has a processor in it.
Correct.
Yeah, the PIC chip or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like a PIC 1600
microcontroller,
700, something, one of those. It's the General Instruments reference design, and General Instruments made both the microcontroller and the speech part, and the synth chip. So it is kind of like, here's your whole everything. Now on the CoCo, since we already have a much better processor in the thing, we could have gone without the PIC, and the card would have been a much more usable card, because then you wouldn't have
Simon hates that thing.
there's a good reason for it, because you have to sit on that one status bit and pull it, and that is the slowest thing ever, because it only comes back once it's done with the allophone generation. So once it's actually finished speaking the allophone, it will say, okay, you can send anything else, rather than, okay, fire off some allophone code and then hammer the synth chip all day long, and then put the next allophone code in when that thing is done speaking.
But is that processor faster than the 6809?
Heck no.
No, not even close.
Oh.
It's not even in the same decade.
Well, what was their thinking?
They're thinking
it was the reference
sound pack, and these are the people who make all that stuff, and this is how they say they should do it. So we built that and shipped it out according to their design. And their design was a reference design, not one that you were going to use for hardcore game development or business application development or anything.
Okay.
It's just a reference design.
That's what
it works.
Right.
It
Much
works.
like the CoCo 3 motherboard.
And there's one saving grace in the speech sound pack that I think people it has 8 buffers and some RAM, so that you can preload both speech pieces and instructions to the synth chip. So if you've got 8 common sound clips that you need to run, like your bullet effect or whatever, you can use the buffer, and you just send a simple command that says rerun this buffer, and that generally goes a lot better for you. You still have huge horrible delays. It's best to put this stuff in the background and just use it only if you have to, but the buffers do kind of offset some of the horror of trying to get commands into the thing, because you can preload a bunch of them and just say run buffer 8. And
so did anybody fix that with a newer sound?
No.
Card? No.
It's not the sound chip.
Yeah, they don't have that stupid PIC chip that slows everything down in between.
All right.
Yeah. Everything on the speech sound pack has to go through commands to that PIC chip.
Okay.
And then the PIC chip basically controls the rest of the card. And it's that PIC chip you have to wait for.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the deluxe CoCo, I don't think had the PIC chip. I think it just had the sound chip.
It was just the ALI sitting in an address.
So they even realized it was a mistake after the fact, but they never corrected the
good
cartridge.
thing about that cartridge, though, is the fact that you could do it from basic. Once you set up all those buffers and whatever, it's actually easy to use the cartridge from a basic program.
Yeah.
But
you hear the speech stuff, the sound stuff's a little bit more complicated, but the speech stuff is quite easy.
That's right. But when you're writing a game, a commercial game, and you don't want all those delays and things in there, you want to be able to write to the hardware directly and get things working, exactly when you want them to.
Yeah. Because there's literally only a couple games that really use that card well. Pitfall 2, I think, is probably the best one.
For the sound, Everything else uses the.
Well, no,
the
Pitfall 2
voice
actually
thing,
did the background music too, like multi-voice music running and sound effects.
But it doesn't use the voice, though, does it?
I
don't think so.
Ganabuana did. I can't remember if Pitfall 2 did, because they go Ooga or whatever the heck when you.
Okay. Yeah, which actually works out good, because it doesn't matter if you didn't understand it.
Yeah, it's meant to be a foreign language, anyways. Who cares?
Exactly.
Well, thanks for letting me extend the show just a little longer.
Oh,
Yeah, shooting for that 4-hour mark now. Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome.
Okay, now for David's lad, and this is where I hang up.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the show for today. I'm going to cut it off now, right? Sorry.
Let's all sneak out. and leave
Okay.
Mark.
Outro.
Big thank you to Mark for hosting. Mark Overhoser for hosting because Mark Bosley wasn't here. There was a bit of glitching at the beginning, which I think mostly got fixed. So now that you've got kind of this under your belt here, I think it'll probably get a bit easier so we can start doing the tech talks soon.
Right. Beauty.
Bye.
Cool. See y'all next week.
Bye.
This concludes another episode of the CoCo Nation, the world's leading live interactive talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things the CoCo Nation, visit us on the web at thecoconation.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to show@thecoconation.com. The CoCo Nation Show would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. The CoCo Nation theme song, copyright 2022, D. Bruce Moore. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. The CoCo Nation is over. Join us on the CoCo Discord server.
CoCo forever.
Also,
Replay.
the
Yeah.
It'll
Can you
take
say that like
Pac-Man
it's a
one.
bad thing?
Replay the first time. Yeah.
takes a while to rewind it.
It's 35 minutes in, Nick.
You could.
Bye.
I thought we were
Wait.
gonna-
Bye, everybody.
See you next week.